Romario Valentine, and he's replied with his CV. Now we're talking about an 11-year-old, and I got his CV. And I called my husband over, I said, you've got to see this. And I looked through his CV, and it blew my mind away. And the thing that came across, and you can find him on Twitter, the stuff that he does, I mean, he goes out of his way. Most 10, 11-year-olds are sitting at home in front of a video game. Not Romario, not at all. He's on the beach, clearing litter, pictures that he posts. And he's so sincere and heartfelt. And he asks questions. I mean, there was a question a couple of weeks ago. He was asking about a subject in horticulture, which he was then going to go and teach to other children. Okay. So, you know, I connected him to the Royal Horticultural Society. So this is an amazing...
Non, vous me faites signe sur le nom.
She sent me an email, and she said, his environmental book that we're going to print next month, he's an author at that young age. So he's finalising everything, and it's going to be released in September. It's a book that will guide other children on how to become an earth protector, and also contain information which has been contained. He's always wanted to create a book to reach all children, especially those who don't have access to this type of environmental information. It was a challenge for us to research about the planet. There are a lot of... So that's a little introduction to Romario. I had to read through it twice because I couldn't believe what he'd done. So we've got a video clip from Romario, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about himself. Take it away. Can we just start it again in the volume, please? Lovely, thank you.
I'm honored to be given this opportunity to address the UN's Golden Journey Delegate, General
if we could take that action moving forward, I think we could contribute to a small percent in terms of restoring the degraded landscapes. So thank you all for joining. I am just going to hand over to Lukwesa, who's going to walk us through the first session with the land ambassadors, and then we'll move on to the other sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, so Sarah clearly has the natural passion. You can see she's been working on this from day one. Okay, land ambassadors and the UNCCD. We have 3 land ambassadors with us today. And I would like to introduce by name for now, because they will introduce themselves and tell us their stories. We're joined by Ambassador 1, also superstar, Ricky Kedge, and President Halonen, former president of Finland. So to the 3 of you, thank you very much for joining us. And Ambassador, I wonder if you could kick it off, please, by just explaining what being a land ambassador means to you, and just give us a background as well as to who you are, what you've done, and how you've got to this point, please. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. My story is very simple. When I arrived in Beijing in 1998, at the time I was Korean ambassador, I was met with very thick sandstorm. The following day, I received a phone call from Seoul, Korea, from my daughter that the same sandstorm overwhelmed Korea. That alarmed me. That dust storm, the same dust storm, already damaged all the people involved in the area. Soon after, I planted trees in the Chinese desert area back in 1999. Yes, initially many people doubted and asked me why you are doing such a foolish. But my motivation was very simple. During the course, I learned that I and my generation have committed tremendous mistake in the past century, where at that time I thought I am doing something great, something good for my country, for economic development and scientific achievement. But as a result, it has resulted tremendous devastation of the land, devastation of the environment. It's a great damage to the future generation. So soon after I retired from the Korean ambassador back in 2000, I organized an NGO, Future Forest. And every year from 2002, I organized 100 young Korean students and Chinese students making the Green Corps. And we went to the Chinese desert planting trees. And the first thing I confessed to them is that I have committed very serious mistake, damaging your future, damaging your future asset. I thought at that time it was right thing, but it is terrible mistake, so I have to repent. So I have continued last 20 years the similar things, constructing great green wall around the edge of the huge Asian dust bowl, which is still expanding to the westward. That great green wall, starting from 2006, has greatly achieved in blocking the expansion of the desert there. I think it is one of the example, and also the success of the Great Green Wall made the villages who have been flown to the other, who have been the kind of the desert, they have departed the village, but after 10 years, they all have returned to the old village, which has been beautifully restored. Yes, my message is very clear. What we have done as the old generation who inflicted serious damage to the younger generation and future generation, I have to do it, compensate. In my word is talk the talk, walk the walk. So my activities just in the spirit of my past wrongdoings, compensation for the future generation. I ask your forgiveness. But the simple word doesn't talk anything. That's why you have to ask me to do it in action. In that spirit, as I already pledged previously, this time I brought with me a small money of 10 million euro for the future project for the young generations, which I would like to consult with the UNCCD Executive Secretary as well as the SARA, how to work it out. With that, I really want to give my apology to the young generation like yourself.
Ambassador, thank you very much indeed. So just to summarize there for you, Ambassador Kwan is a former diplomat, and he said something that we would not normally hear in this world. The self-awareness of saying our generation got it wrong, but moving on and doing something about it. Now, if you didn't catch that figure, I'll just reiterate. The ambassador has pledged the sum of $10 million, and it's going to be directly placed with the future, that is the young. And we have some of those people with us here today, because that's where essentially the answer lies, because it is them who are going to be taking some of the solutions that we are hearing the scientists working on today, and they are the ones who are going to be implementing it. So Ambassador, once again, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. So from an international diplomat, we are going to go to an international historical. You made history, Your Excellency. Former President of Finland, President Halonen, Land Ambassador now for the UNCCD. Thank you very much indeed for joining us here. Please tell us your story.
So, yes, my name is Tarja Halonen, and I have a different kind of position where you put X, former this and that. And very often they mention that I'm the former president of my own country, Finland, and the first female one, but the others will come. So that was already from 2000 to 2012, which is maximum time somebody can be. Already before that, when I was a foreign minister, I was interested in international affairs, and I have one of those still living persons who have been in Beijing in 1995, when Hillary Clinton said that women's rights are also human rights. And so 2000, my country and Namibia, we were sharing the chairmanship in United Nations, and we made so-called Millennium Goals. And so I was chairing together with the Namibian president that session. We had time, 15 years, to implement it. And then during that time, I tried to work as much as possible, of course being the president of my country, but also trying to implement these Millennium Goals, the first social justice global declaration, as we call it. And a lot of good on that. But before the 15 years was over, we noticed that we have forgotten something. We have forgotten also the nature. And then we started to plan the Rio Conventions, and I was co-chairing it in this time together with the South African president. So we made this basis for this agenda ready, and then the heads of the states and governments, they accepted in Rio 2015. And now we are working with that. We should implement the Rio Conventions, because the paper doesn't change the world. You have an action. And now I retired in 2012, as you counted, and now in my retirement time I have continued to my right and duties to work for the implementation. And I think that one of the successes was the Paris Climate Change Agreement, which is judicially binding an international convention. And then it's good. That's a good start. Everybody needs the air to breathe. But it's not one, how could I say, one issue. It's one of the many issues what we need. And now we are here for the implementation to these other conventions, and especially respecting and remembering the land. I think that this is a very, very good idea, and I thank very much for all those people who have already worked for this convention. And we, the land ambassadors, we are like ambassadors normally. We are bringing the message. We try to reach as many people as possible. And because we are very different persons, as you can see, so we might also meet a different kind of the people. And as you perhaps have noticed that I'm a woman, so I have a certain gender perspective still. And I think so that during this afternoon we will speak more about the daughters of the earth. But this is my humble way to try to work. Sometimes I'm teasing these men. I will say that I'm the grandmother of the family, because I know that you respect your grandmother. Okay, thanks.
Your Excellency, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Our final land ambassador who is here, there are other land ambassadors, but they've had to return back home. But we have Ricky Kedge here. Now, he's probably not going to say what I'm going to say, so I'm going to introduce you. If you don't know, you are in the company of a 2-time Grammy award-winning star. And I keep stressing this, Ricky, because like Ambassador and Your Excellency, you all have incredibly busy, hectic schedules, but you have taken the time to devote your voices to what is taking place at the moment. So I will always shout out about people's achievements, because it's not easy juggling. So Ricky has just won his 2nd Grammy, in fact earlier this year. Ricky also informed us Ricky also informed us that he's put together some 3,500 jingles. I was blown away. So we have somebody from the creative world, and everybody here is bringing something different to the table. Ricky, I'm going to hand it over to you, please.
Thank you for that. And so I'm Ricky. I'm a musician. I'm an environmentalist. Two pillars that have pretty much dictated my whole life and all my life decisions. So ever since I remember, I've always been a musician. I mean, I don't remember a time when I was not either playing a musical instrument or obsessed with music. And it was a natural progression for me to become a professional musician. Once I became a professional musician, I started off my career doing commercials for television and radio. So that's how I started off, and I did a whole lot of them. During my career of doing, I had a career of doing television and radio commercials of about 13 or 14 years. And during those 13 or 14 years, as was said, that I did more than 3,500 commercials, and for pretty much every brand that you can imagine, whether it is Air India or Lufthansa or Coca-Cola or Pepsi or, Google, Microsoft, basically every brand and their competitor everywhere in the world, I was creating music for them. And even Uninor from Finland and Genlec, I've composed music for them too. So anyway, after doing this for about 13 years, it sort of struck me that these big brands have understood the power of music. So much so that they're ready to spend a few $1,000s on me to create a piece of music for them. And not only that, they're ready to spend a few $1 million to actually air this music on television and radio. So they've understood that music is not just a powerful language for communicating a message, but for also retaining that message deep in the consciousness of a listener. Like the songs that we learned during our childhood are songs we never forget. If there are any morals in those songs, those morals stick with us and guide our lives forever. And the jingles that we learned, that we've listened to during our childhood are jingles that we remember forever. So I was very ashamed to see that these big brands have understood the power of music, that they're ready to base their multi-million-dollar campaigns to sell a product because they're always trying to sell something based on music. And I myself, being a musician, have not harnessed the power of music. So that is when I made a very strong decision that, and with some push from people, that I'm going to that every single piece of music that I make is going to be about about the environment, about positive social impact around those areas. So basically, every piece of music that I make is going to be about making this world a better place in my own tiny and in my own small capacity. And that's what started a new journey of mine. So now, for the last 8 years actually, I've not been doing any kind of commercial music. The only kind of music that I make is about social impact and about the environment, and that's why I'm here today. Yeah.
Ricky, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Before we move on and start our conversation, can I just make sure that I mark the 2 other land ambassadors that are part of the family? And I'm referring to Baba Mal, who has been with us but has had to return back to Senegal. We were also joined earlier and part of the land ambassadors family by Inamoja as well. So you can see that these are incredible voices who are doing amazing work for the planet. I'm not going to say the UN because it's for the planet. That is what they're doing. This is the work. So let me start off by asking you both. I'm going to put the 3 of you, the question that Romario ended with. Just to remind you, Romario said, will you become our champions? So how would you answer a 10-and-a-half-year-old saying, will you be my champion? Will you help me to fix things? Ambassador.
Yes. I am also from the very poor village, and starting from there, I made this long way up to this point. But I'm sure you can make the same way. But it doesn't come taken for granted. I would like to suggest you to make a kind of the startup, especially in relation with the environmental activities. Environment provides you a great blue ocean opportunity to be an entrepreneur. for the young generation like yourselves. If I were you, definitely I will start up as a business, green business, making not only you happy and richer, but also make the land sustainable. So my suggestion is, if you could start a kind of green business together with your fellow youngsters, I can be of a certain kind of assistance in connection with the UNCCD programs or with my own program. I have several programs too also. Today is the limited time. However, if you provide a certain kind of communicating the machine, like metaverse, because you are so able in making the social network, right? So let's make the kind of metaverse, namely future Earth. I can work with you in substance. I will also provide a certain kind of the assistance to you. So let's start rather concrete projects from now on. If you plan, I can never sit idle. I will come to your response. I thank you.
Ambassador, thank you. So just to remind you or reiterate what was just said, if you approach the ambassador with a business plan, he's your man, okay?
Yes, right.
So that is the message there. If you've got a business plan, it is one way you can channel those energies and ultimately resources, because we know that nothing happens without resources. And this is what organizations like the UN are always saying. We need the resources, we need the funds to do the work, to implement it, to fund the research. So there we have one possible solution, okay? President Halonen, you are a champion for the UNCCD. How would you advise Romario to become a champion for his future?
First, I will say that, Mario, you are much better positioned what we were when I was in your age. I was born in Finland, in the very north. You can see it from the map, where we have snow and ice. So it was still the war, what we normally call the Second World War. I was born in the last Christmas of that. And then when the peace came, so our parents and generation tried to do as much as possible that we could recover, not only in Europe, in USA, all over the world. And so we worked very hard in order to give more welfare. And so I got part of that, not too much, but anyway. And then when we became grown up, we noticed that perhaps the resources of this planet are not quite unlimited. And now we have tried to collect a different kind of science, research, and facts that people could know that these are not unlimited, but we have a lot of resources, and if we use them smart way and also in fair way, so everybody will get enough. And I'm those who try to guarantee for you that the story is true, just today, but also in the future, even we get all the time more and more facts. And these guys who make a fantastic music, they also knock your heart, because we need always our head and our heart, keep them both as important, Mario. And that's my message. Be very brave, be courage, and just ask impossible things, and we do them together to be possible. Thank you.
Okay, Ricky, you are obviously, you're doing the champion, all three of you are doing the championing work. How would you sell the idea of becoming a champion for the planet? And how would you sell yourself to Romario saying, I'm your man?
So first of all, I've always believed that children are born with qualities like kindness, empathy, compassion, and environmental consciousness. They're always drawn towards nature. They always love nature, love animals, that kind of a thing. But what we're doing is that the way that we people are bringing them up, and our education system is dealing with them, we are systematically erasing that from children. So that's exactly what we're doing. So I believe that what we need to do is try to just maintain whatever is the natural instincts and maintain what is natural to children. And I think, I think that should be sufficient. But it's easier said than done. So what I had done is that I recognized this issue, and I realized that a whole lot of nursery rhymes, don't teach you anything. Like, for example, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star does not teach you about stars. Baba Black Sheep does not teach you about sheep, and of course there are much bigger issues with Baba Black Sheep. So the thing is that, what I did with two of my close friends, Lonnie Park and Dominic De Cruz, two close songwriting friends of mine, that we created these 27 songs, which are based on sustainability, which are basically at the level of adolescent and nursery rhymes. Each song is about a different topic. Like, we've got a song called Plastic War, which is about plastics. We've got a song called Carbon Footprint, which is about teaching children what a carbon footprint is. We've got songs about sharing, gender equality, water, that kind of stuff. And the thing is that every song is extremely positive. They're fun, they're energetic, and it was very difficult for me as a musician to keep the songs as simple as possible, because I as a musician want to add a lot of complexity to it, but we have to keep them very simple so that children learn these songs in the first listen. So these songs are in the education system in India, and we've reached currently we are in 11 million textbooks. We're hoping to scale up to about 25 million by next year. And the idea is that, in a fun way, to keep these qualities that children are born with alive, and hopefully to start the conversation on conservation. It's quite a tongue twister. The conversation on conservation, to start that at a much earlier stage. So basically, anybody who is responsible to the environment, in my opinion, is a champion for children, simply because you are championing the cause of a better life and a better, a better world for the future generation. So that's about it, yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Before we move on to our next area of discussion, I would just like to point out that after my next question to our panel, I'd like to come to our audience. You have the option here, the opportunity to pose direct questions to three phenomenal people who are in the room with you. It's not often you would get access like this. So have a think about it, and when we finish our next round of questions, please just raise your hand early so I can catch your eye and we can come to you straight away. Is that all right? Yes? Okay. Fantastic. My next question to you is that this is a highly technical event. You know what I mean when I say that you are ordinary people. You engage with the public. These are scientists, I keep saying it there, this is their specialized field. And they need people like you to reach out. That is the ambassadorial work that you are doing. I wonder if you could give me one takeaway from what you have engaged with here at this convention, which you can say, I'm going to pick that up, I'm going to break it down into accessible language, I'm going to take it forward when I leave here, and I'm going to carry that message across, because this is what it is all about. That is your role as ambassadors. So, Ambassador Kwan, I'm going to come to you first. What is your major takeaway from this convention, and how will you use it when the convention comes to a close?
Yes. First of all, I would like to take the young generation as a whole as my future potential asset, because they are great talent, they have great potential, but not yet fully exploited. But they do not have, not yet in my judgment, the big enough ambition yet. if I were you, I will become very much ambitious. You know, even though the situation is very limited, you should dream of a beautiful future. Dream where land is safe and land is fertile and land makes a big fortune for yourself in the future. Actually, I am from the very bottom line of human life up to this point. So if you are ambitious enough to plan a very ambitious plan directly in relation with the blue ocean field of the green economy, maybe we can find some common ground to work together. So through the UNCCD institution, especially together with Sarah, we can work it out while I am here. And please connect with all the young generation, okay?
Ambassador, thank you very much. So, I don't know if you've noticed, but Ambassador Kwan is doing what he does best. He's repeating a message over and over again. And that is what an ambassador does. And his message right now is, I am your resource. If you can come up with an idea which is linking the green economy, yeah, technology, innovation, he is with us for a little bit longer, but you can still reach him through Sarah or through the contacts within the UNCCD. That message I have picked up now repeatedly 3 times. Listen to it, act on it. Okay. President Halonen.
So, I will repeat that just all of you and also those you know and who are not here. So repeat what our ambassador said, because I think that this is quite unusual opportunity. That's point one. The second point is that we need everybody. So to Mario and the others I will say, you are important and we need your cooperation, your creativity, your work. What you can do with your nearest one, and then later on in the bigger circle. But I also say they are not stupid questions. Make all the questions what you have in your mind to your mommy, to your daddy, to your brothers, to your sisters, to your teacher. Don't shame to make questions. Questions are never stupid. Sometimes the responses are not so good. But anyway, we start our best, everybody. And so it's fine that you feel responsibility. But what I have learned here is that what looks very, very complicated, this lot of conventions and all kind of things, it's in the matter of fact, it's like knitting. The girls at least know it, knitting. You have a different kind of the phrases, but all are needed. And so in that way, I hope that you feel that you taken just a decent amount of the responsibility, and you can be also decently very proud what you are doing, because together we can do it, not alone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Right, after Ricky, I am coming to the audience for questions. So start raising your hand so I can catch you. Ricky, what jingle are you going to take away from the UN, the UNCCD?
So for me, always when I'm at such conferences, I'm always trying to get inspired by the what is said and what's been going around. So in this particular case, I guess one thing is of course the urgency of the situation. That is something that is a strong takeaway, that the situation is quite dire and it's urgent. The day before yesterday, I heard it was said that only 15% of all natural disasters are land related, but yet the highest number of yet the highest number of deaths are basically because of natural disasters that are land related. So that's a very, very important statistic. That's something that I'm going to take home and figure out how to communicate that through music. And the second thing would be about our personal responsibilities. So I think that's going to be really important to communicate to my audiences and audiences all over the world that we need to change our relationship with our food and of course our fiber, because that's what's grown on the land. So we need to try to move as much as possible towards a plant-based diet. That's going to be really important because then we'll be far more efficient with our land, because that's what we need. We need to be efficient with the land and efficient with our water. That's what I'll try to communicate through our music. And also the fact that, the paradigm of what we can afford to buy, consume and waste has always been dictated by how much we can financially afford. If I can financially afford something and I just keep buying it and I can waste it. So that needs to change to what our planet can afford. And that paradigm needs to change, and that's what artists need to do to try to change that paradigm. Like for example, for me, at any given point of time, I only have 11 sets of clothes. And I only have 11 sets of clothes. If you go onto my Instagram, you'll see this jacket on at least 20 pictures. You'll see this shirt on at least 15 or 20 pictures. So that's how it is. I buy good quality clothes and I take care of them, and I have only 11 sets. Like the costume that I wore at the Grammys, you'll find that in 5 other pictures. And I'm going to be wearing that same costume at the Cannes Film Festival. So that's the way it is. I repeat my clothes, and I'm very, very proud to repeat my clothes, and I hope everybody repeats their clothes.
Okay, so you practice what you preach. Yeah. I
try to.
I'm a just-in-case packer. We'll leave it there. Okay, our first question, please. I'm going to go to Zambia. Zambia is calling. This is David. David, introduce yourself. This is a land hero. Just tell us a little bit about you, please, and put the question to the panel. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So I'm David Chapoloko from Zambia. I'm a land hero. And yeah, like we saw from the ambassadors, they're doing quite a lot of things for the environment in the way that they are good at. I also use the things that people enjoy to do, to bring change, to advocate for land. In the process, I don't want to go with jargon, the things that people don't understand. We want to use, what kids like to play with the things around them, for instance, and, to create something that can sustain their livelihood. How farmers can pick things from their environment and, ease their agriculture and, increase their productivity. Maybe I'll talk more when the Land Heroes panel comes on. Yeah, but basically that's what I do. Yeah. It's good to hear from the land ambassadors what they are doing, and especially to be encouraged from the older folks. It's so encouraging for them to take responsibility, but also with action, like Ambassador Kwan and Her Excellency, and Ricky using his music talent. So my concern really is maybe I would just love to know if, let's say for instance, we had a COP in the next 2 years, what really tangible or collective progress can we see from the ambassadors that they can do collectively and say, as ambassadors, this is what we planned on doing and this is what we are coming back with as a mark of our success. Thank you so much.
As David has posed that question, I would just like to very quickly pause, and we are being asked, because obviously we are broadcasting internationally. I wonder if I could just pause and ask you all to put your mask on, just as a precaution. I'm actually going to just step away because my mask is at the back of the room, so if you could excuse my stepping away whilst you address David. I should be back shortly. If not, Sarah will step in. This is what you call delegation, and just explain the SDGs to us. But I'll be back shortly. So yes, please, if whoever wants to pick up on David's point, please do.
Yeah, so I can say very quickly, I hope so that we encourage people to respect Mother Earth, the soil, and to see that how important it is. And notice that the planet is huge, but the cover we have a soil is very thin, and respect it and to use it smartly and to care of it. like it would be our mother. Okay.
Well, we have to have very concrete, tangible result in a limited time span. In terms of the 2 years term until the next COP, what you can do, achieve in tangible terms. On my part, I can take one example. You young generation are very able in social media. And at the moment, the metaverse is quite prevalent. And it provides wonderful opportunity for the young generation like you to take advantage in comparison with the old generation like myself. In the meantime, you have some disadvantage. You don't have money. You don't have means. You don't have no connections. While the old generation like myself have connection, some means to collect money. That's why don't we collaborate? It's 2 years term is very short. If you could contact Sarah and of understanding on this
allergic this, but never mind. It's not dangerous for you. So the first thing is that the situation is different in different countries, and that's why we should also to tailor all these requested in such a way that they are fitting to the correct area. And that's why I think that it's good to remind you, everybody, that study your closest neighborhood so that you can know it. And so this is tailored for you and remembering the others.
Ricky?
I guess for me it's about it's about raising awareness about these issues, and so I would say that I would not like to term it as as some sort of a legacy that I want to leave behind. I would So yeah, I'm a little confused about my answer because I would not call it a legacy, but I would say that I would like to work very hard to achieve all of that. Yeah.
I think that's fair enough. And Ambassador, I think I can guess your answer. Your legacy would be to set the youth on the road to success and saving the planet. Am I right?
Well, it is quite to the contrary.
Oh, goodness.
Yes.
I stand corrected.
I still feel the sense of sin. I have committed something terribly mistake for the future generations. That's why that is the main motivation for me to work with. In that sense, I mean, my commitment is not for something good, but from my point of view, it is just to apologize what I have committed in the past. So, if you really approach me in real term, something concrete, you can achieve something concrete. So, I would like, from my point of view, I do know how to do the business, how to mobilize, how to approach the rich man, how to collect money. So that is the single most important hazard for the young generations. So please don't hesitate and go to the direct action. Okay.
Ambassador, thank you. Do we have one more question from the audience? We do. So we'll have this final question and then we'll bring this session to a close before we move on to our next session, which is going to be moderated by Dr. Musonda, or we will move on to the youth engagement conversation. We'll see how it plays out. But I wonder if you could put your question to the panel, please. Introduce yourself, where you're from, why you're here, and your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. The President, Ambassador, the land heroes. My name is Sunday Geoffrey. I'm coming from Cameroon. I'm a grassroots activist. When I got here, the lone youth I thought I would meet first was Musa Ibrahim. He's a guy I follow so much on Facebook, and I'm so inspired with what he's doing. Yeah. Unfortunately, I was leaving today without meeting him until I sent a text to Dr. Musonda to help facilitate so I could meet a land hero, and she told me this session was going on. Yesterday, I was at Met one several times to attend this session. Unfortunately, it did not happen. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I just have a worry. First, I'm inspired by what the President and the Ambassador has mentioned, that we need to be brave, we need to be ambitious, even over-ambitious. And I want to say that the project I'm leading in Cameroon, sometimes I feel that we are being too ambitious, because I'm working with the indigenous Mboro communities and local population in northwest Cameroon. And I'm working in a community where we've not had interventions in the past years from any civil society organizations or even from government agencies. And since our intervention in this community in 2019, well, let me say that the Northwest Cameroon has been in a political crisis since 2016. So we started this the land restoration initiative in this community in 2019. We've had a lot of challenges. Yes, successes, yes, but a lot of challenges, because when we talk to government officials or we talk to funders, the general impression is that in crisis moment, land restoration is not a priority. It's not a priority. So they'll prefer to channel all financial resources to humanitarian aid rather than engaging in land restoration. But then I've been able, through these 4 years, to plant over 9,000 trees. I've been able to provide livelihood supports to indigenous Mboro women. But then the 50 hectares of land that we thought we will restore in 5 years, we've not been able to do that already in 4 years. We've not been able to do that. Not even 1/3 of it. Yeah, because as I mentioned, donors feel that in crisis, communities in crisis, restoration is not an emergency. So I want to find out here from the ambassador, if at the end of COP, in Cameroon is in crisis, Nigeria in crisis, most communities are in crisis. If at the end of COP15, we focus on we focus only on restoring land in secured environment, when are we going to close this disparity gap? Because I'm working with communities that really need help. But you, the funders, feel that they don't need that help in crisis moments. When are we going to close this disparity gap? Thank you.
Okay, so let me just repeat that question, see if I understand it correctly. Thank you very, very much. You are pointing out the fact that land restoration is at the bottom of the priority list. Am I right? It's not seen as a top priority in Cameroon. Is that correct? First point.
In northwest region of Cameroon, because northwest region is in crisis.
Okay. First off, if somebody from the panel could pick up why land restoration is a priority, because that would be one of your messages as an ambassador. Thank you, President. President Halonen will address that particular question. And your second point was, a lot of this is down to disparity, financial disparity. Are you looking to bridge the gap? What can be done to bridge the gap? Can you correct me on that?
Yes, I mean, because I see this community moving deep into poverty.
Okay.
Because of COVID, because of the crisis,
Yeah.
and because of land degradation.
Okay.
And if we continue not to restore this land, they are moving deep further into poverty. When will we be able to close this gap?
Have you asked politicians in your country that question as well? And what have they said? I'm keen to hear their response. What have they said to you?
Well, like when I was coming here, I was at the Ministry of Environment and Nature Protection. I was simply told it's not safe enough for us to go there. But I said, I'm on the field. I was coming from the field. I have images on the foot and feet. I was on the field with the communities. More than 100 of these communities volunteers were on the field to assist my work. But they tell me this place is not safe. I'm saying it's safe enough for us to work.
Okay, can I just have your name quickly, please?
My name is Sunday Geoffrey. Sunday Geoffrey.
Sunday.
Yes, I'm the coordinator of GLF XE Yaoundé chapter.
Okay, Sunday, what do you need to get the job done? What do you need? What's your list?
Capacity building, first, and financial resources to establish a nursery and to also build capacity of local volunteers.
Thank you. President.
It goes with one mic. Okay, so land restoration, yes. Land restoration is a smart invention. It's a smart invest. And you do it much better than trying to take the new good land from the forests. We use already now too much land for the agriculture and food production. So, as you said, land restoration should be one of our priorities. One is, of course, the second, what I will propose to you is the prevention, that we should learn to farm and farm in such a way that we don't need land restoration so much in the future. But land restoration, it's a smart way to get better land. That's point. And ask also here that if you need subsidies or help, support for the land restoration, it should be the priority also in this meeting. Thank you.
Okay, your second point to the question, or your question, we're going to put to Ambassador Kwan. So Ambassador Kwan, Sunday there, needs resources. He needs resources. He says that he is on the ground. He can get the job done. He can do it. He's being told, no, it's not. So how would he approach somebody who has the resources? Is this a climate land project that is viable? Because that is the realities of this world. It has to be viable. Is it viable?
Can you come over here? Yes.
Come forward. Thank you. Thank you.
Afterwards, let's talk, okay? Directly. And I would like to give you the direct answer. Yes, it's very simple. The land degradation, that is the too big agenda for you to approach. you should come down to the earth. Very concrete project. Some, let's say, some mango tree planting for the primary school or something like that. You should be very concrete in detail. And with that plan, you should come to me, but there is no channel between yourself and myself directly. That's why somebody should be in charge in the panel. The youth representatives should be in charge. Through that organization, you should go directly to Sarah for some concrete, tangible proposal. If it is abstract, nothing can happen. If it is too big agenda, there can be no way out. Please go to the detail, go to the practice, go down to the earth project, and directly approach one of your the youth heroes, and through youth heroes you can go to the Sarah. Sarah and I will try to make some platform. Okay. That is the answer you want.
So Sunday, let me just put this the key points that I heard there. Correct me if you're wrong, or if you understand, or if you want to add to this. So what you're hearing from a business head, and this is really important because that's how you're going to work. Yeah, very similar to politicians. They want to see concrete evidence. They want to see details. Okay, you may already have this, so excuse me if I'm teaching you to suck eggs. First point is, the grand idea is something that you are going to cherish, but you need to work towards. You need the small pieces of the puzzle to complete your picture. And what you're hearing from a businessman is, I need you to start off with an actual project, okay? So it might include, as he said, planting trees. He's just taken something. It depends what would be applicable to your region, all right? It's not a one-size-fits-all. So if you want ambassadors' help, and there is no reason why you can't have it, your conversation has already started. You're sitting next to him. You're at the table. You are at the table. No one can accuse anybody today of not being at the table, okay? You're at the table, my friend. Come together and put that concrete idea on paper, not a grand idea, but a concrete element of it, because it has to show a result, an end result. And that is how young people today will be able to work with the people who hold the purse strings, okay? You're going to do it. Organizations like the UN have to do exactly the same thing to get the funds, exactly the same thing. You have to show where the money's going, okay? So that's the trick to it. Right. So that's what I understood from the ambassador. He's told you who the go-to person is. That's always the hardest part. Okay. I need a contact name. Do you know anyone? You've heard that name about 100 times in the last hour, isn't it? Isn't it, President?
Yeah, I would say I will add, and then when you make a good example, so let us to know that, and then request the continuation.
Were you going to add something?
Yeah, I just want to appreciate the ambassador and also to thank him for being so honest and so open. Yeah, I want to say that I have something concrete. I will meet Ibrahim, then we'll forward to Sarah. Yeah, we'll be able to submit to Sarah, because the Global Landscape Forum is also assisting the restoration of part of this land. Ambassador, thank you so much. You'll hear from us, and we're happy to collaborate. Thank you so much.
And unless anybody has any questions, do you know what? I think that is a fantastic point to end this session. And for me, that is what I want the sessions to be, for people to walk away with something concrete. So I feel as if we have achieved that at this particular session of the UNCCD. Oh my goodness, you've got a business card. That's like gold dust. It pays to attend the sessions here at the UNCCD. So I'm going to bring this session to a close. Thank you very much. I would like to have a huge round of applause to our ambassadors today. And thank you also for attending. We have got a number of other sessions that are going to take place. I wonder if we could just break out for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll come back, and we're either going to hear about Mother Earth and her daughters, as President Hallinan mentioned earlier, or depending on our attendees being here on time, we are going to speak to our land heroes. You've already heard from one, and this is a very, I think, a natural jump in our agenda. So these are land heroes that have been put together again by Sarah. So she is the one person who is coordinating this and has such a passion to translate what she does at the UNCCD to real life examples. So we'll be hearing from them shortly. If I could just give you 2 or 3 minutes, and hopefully it will allow more people who I know are trying to join the session to come and join us in the room. So 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll gather again and continue our next session. But for now, Ambassador Juan, Ricky Kedge, and President Hallinan, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Okay. If we can just begin again for this very sort of short session, because I know that President Halonen also has an interview. We're going to transition into this next session. I cannot quite, meet the professionalism of a professional journalist and scientist like Lucas Barak, but I'll try. So in this next session, and just really looking at the gender aspect, before I choke myself with my mask. In this section, really looking at women and also the Land for Life initiative, we have a couple of other speakers who are supposed to be coming, but they're running late. But we have President Halonen, who you've heard speak, and now we're also joined by another lovely lady called Mule Mailes, who runs an NGO in Zambia. And if you can introduce yourself, Mule, to the audience so that they know who you are and what you do. Give us a little bit background of who you are.
Okay. Mailes Zulu. Okay. I'm the CEO for Save Environment and People Agency. This organization looks at 4 pillars: environment, education, human rights, and HIV and AIDS. So in environment, that's where we are doing a lot to make sure we prepare the mothers and the youths, especially girls, for them to tackle land degradation issues. Reason is that when the land is degraded, the one to suffer is a woman. And in the province where I come from, it is hosting 3 giant mines. That is Rumwana, Kansansha, and Kalumbila. And there's a lot of displacement. And when the family is displaced, it's again the woman to suffer and the girls. Because a woman, when you arrive at that new place, the first thing he has to look around. Where am I going to fetch firewood? Where am I going to collect firewood and fetch water for my family? Well, maybe the husband will be busy trying to construct. And then we find that women have suffered a lot, because when the mine displaces them, these women for a long time have been getting fresh water from the streams, but the mine will say, we are going to dig boreholes for you. Then they only give them 2 or 3. And then those boreholes, by the time it's August, they are all dried up. So they face a lot of challenges. And then we are also looking at women land rights in the extractive industry.
Right.
Yes. So
this is amazing.
Yeah.
This is absolutely amazing.
Could I just jump in really quickly, please? I know it's awkward to use microphones, but I just want to, when a contributor is speaking, it's very easy to lose the sound. So if I can just give you a demonstration.
Okay.
Try and keep, because it's directional, the sound coming out of here has to hit the microphone. If you could keep it as close to where the sound is projecting out of your mouth, in line with the microphone, then everybody will hear everything. It's very easy to lose it when you're moving around like this here. You lose the sound.
Okay.
So it's a directional mic. Make sure it's in the direction of your voice. Thank you. I just thought I'd step in quickly. Thanks, Musana.
Thank you very much, Lucas. I know, but fantastic to have you here, Mailes, and just really hearing about the work that you're doing. So this session, Hindu, welcome. And I know that there's Mario Lodi, who's also here. Mucho gusto. Welcome here as well. I don't know the other lady. Agnes, welcome. Karibu sana. Yeah. So it's really, really wonderful. This session is talking about Mother Earth and her daughters, women and land for life. So we're very excited. So maybe I should start with you, President Halonen. What do you call land in your language?
Ma.
Ma. How do you spell it?
M-A-A.
M-A-A. Ma. Wow. Hindu, what do you call land in your language? Legdi. Legdi. Huh? Okay. Land in your language, Marilodi? Pachamama. Ah, Pachamama in Quechua. Huh? Enkuluponi. In which language? In Maasai, Isholeng. Now, in your language? Land.
Taka.
Ka?
Taka.
Nkaka.
Eh,
My goodness, the richness of these languages, Ma, Nkaka, Pachamama, Legdi, Enkuluponi. I don't even know where to begin. And what's always amazing is the nurturing element of land that is always remembered, how it nurtures us, takes care of us. So I want to hear from you ladies in terms of your history, your legacies, your cultures. What keeps you grounded? What makes Ma special? Why does it matter to you? For example, President Halonen, why does Ma matter to you?
If I tell very much from the culture, I say that we believe it's according to the Bible that we come from the earth, and that's the place where we return back home. So Ma, the land, is origin for everything, and that's why it also gives us everything we need, and we have to look after it, care of it.
Thank you very much. The land where we come from, where we belong, and also where we return, how we weave in. I want to come to you, Hindu. I'm not sure the other speaker works very well.
Yeah, I think it's work.
Brilliant. Go ahead. What does that mean to you? Why does it matter to you? And why are you fighting for it?
So we have a proverb in my community when we say, "Engari eledi and kotan eledi." That's what you also say. Like, we come from land and we will go back to land. So
And where is your community from, for those of you who may not know you in this room?
sure. So I'm coming from Chad, and I am coming from a nomadic pastoralist community. So my people are not belong only to Chad. This is after the colonization that we get the nationality. But we belong to more than 5 to 7 countries, all surrounding us. And that's why also when we talk about land, we talk about all the land around the places we are moving, not around only one country. So land is matter to me because land is everything for my peoples. It is the water that we are drinking. It is the food that we are eating. It is the medicine that we are using. Land is grow up everything that human being need to live in this earth. And at the end, this human being go back to this land. So that's why it is very important. We cannot talk land separately and human being separately. We are part of it, and we are land.
Wonderful, just wonderful. And for me, what's very fascinating about, indigenous mobile communities is that fluidity of going through even these supposedly sovereign state boundaries. And yet, you speak the same language, there were systems in place. We now go to the Andes, your beautiful land. I love visiting Peru. It's special, and it's really just one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in the Altiplano. I mean, when you go to these mountains, you suddenly understand, indeed, this is where the goddess lives. So in Quechua, when you say Pachamama, why does Pachamama matter?
Wow. Well, I will add to what Indu said, because it's like the same. It's like people is part of the land. You can divide people and land. But also I will add, particularly for the Andes area, it's also identity. It reflects what people is. It's connected to land beyond what land provides. It's also like an identity, cultural identity. So you can like exist without referring or connected to land. So I could describe like that, identity.
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 Who you are.
Who you are.
And where you belong in these special, beautiful connectivity. Agnes, I want to come to you because for me, We crisscross from the Andes, we cross the Atlantic and come to Kenya, to the Maasai. You know, the first time I came to Kenya and actually saw a Maasai, because I come from Zambia and we don't really have true pastoralists. So, seeing this pastoral world in the Masai Mara and the Serengeti, I was shocked. Because, you know, you just see pictures of the Maasai and then you see them in real life, and then you see their connectivity to land, and also the clans and the culture. So in your language, why does land matter so much?
Land is everything. I can actually say land is everything. Absolutely nothing. You're connected. It's like you and your skin. There's no way you can connect yourself, you disconnect yourself from your own skin. That's how land is to us. It is the shelter that you live in. Because we cannot live in a home without making it from the forest. And where does the forest come from? It's part of that land. You cannot eat food without part of wood that you bring to make food. Where does that wood come from? It comes from the land. The land to us is like the cow. Because again, as pastoralists, the cow means everything. And you use everything about the cow. From the skin, to the meat, to the hoofs, to the horns. You literally use everything. It's your bed, it's your food, it's your fat, it's everything. It's your clothing. Before we got into modern clothing, it's what we used to use for our clothing. So that's how land is to us. The cow is to a pastoralist, is the same way the land is to a pastoralist. We and our livelihoods cannot survive without land. Because the cow that you feed on must feed on the land.
Correct.
And where does the grass come from? It comes from the land again. For us to survive from the cow that feeds on the land, we have to get herbs, you know, medicinal plants from the land that we live in. And that's where then when you slaughter your cow or your goat and you need that medicine, definitely you will get it from the land. Can you see the way the land is intertwined? You
Correct.
cannot sell it, you cannot hire it, you cannot do any. It's just part and parcel of you. And when you die, that's where you will go back to. So it is such a sacred being, such a sacred thing. And the connection to land is also so sacred and cannot be done away with. That's why even selling it is almost like a taboo. Because it was given freely, and you will leave it there for generations and generations to come. And that's why we must take care of it.
Correct.
We must nurture it, for it also to nurture us. So that's the interconnection, the connection between us and the land and our livelihoods.
Correct.
Yeah.
This is just amazing. I like your description around the skin. That, you know, how do you detach yourself from your skin? You cannot detach yourself from your skin. It is part of you, and you're it. And I think you bring in a very important element of medicinal plants. The realization that, you know, from these food systems and from these ecosystems, the healing comes from there as well. And we know that the theme for this COP is land, life, legacy, moving from scarcity to prosperity. I want to go to this next question, because what we want to do, the ambition that we have, thanks to Sarah and many others from the CCD, from her team, we're trying to actually put together a book, Mother Earth and Her Daughters, from around the world, really talking about this theme from this COP. So going forward, I really want to now understand from the ladies, in terms of your experiences around scarcity, what are your ambitions, and what, from your work that you're doing, and we could even include Patricia here, who's also a land hero, and perhaps I can start with you. In your work, how do you want to move from the scarcity to prosperity? Give us a pathway, how you want to do that, your vision.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Patricia Combo. I'm a UNCCD land hero working on land restoration. And my legacy, first of all, is to leave a generation that loves and appreciates nature, because without the environmental knowledge in young kids, we will be doing zero work, because we are leaving behind a generation to inherit the land. But without the right tools, without the right information, without the right mindset, they will continue hurting and, destroying the land. And second, I want to leave a legacy whereby a woman will not have to strain thinking, what will I feed my community? What if the rains do not come? What am I going to do? I want a generation that is confident that even 50 years from now, the land and the soil will feed the communities. A woman who is confident that even when she's dead, our generation will continue because they will have food. A lot of women today fear death because they know once they die, their children will suffer. But I want a legacy whereby a woman is confident that even if today I'm not there, I'm so certain that my generation will have healthy soils and a productive land. And also a legacy whereby a child will stand confident and tell a leader, this is wrong, this is my inheritance, why are you destroying my land? And this will change the narrative, and we'll have a generation that is bold and to say restoration does not come from commitments only. Restoration is not stored on those books in your offices, but restoration comes from the ants, from the work that the communities are doing, and from interacting with nature. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patricia, for that very intense and calling for a generation that is really looking at a healthy ecosystem, healthy soils, living in a space where they're not worried about what future generations will inherit, and they're not inheriting problematic landscapes. I want to come to you, President Halonen. What is your ambition? What is your vision in terms of how we move from scarcity to prosperity?
So I'm so happy. I respect very much these young men who are here because 50% of the world population are men and another 50% are women. But I have missed hearing more female voices, and now we have them a lot. And so that's why I love also the fact that that already the title is Mother Earth and her daughters. In the most of the indigenous, old, ancient societies, land has a feminine name. It's mother. And so we can respect this tradition. And so I think that among the small farmers in Africa and Asia, like you already mentioned, so the women are a majority. So they are doing the very important work. They feed the population, and they do it in both in peacetime but also in the time of conflict. So they do it in very hard circumstances. And through their experience with land and its resources, they have gained, as you also mentioned, a very high level of knowledge on the preservation of these natural resources. But despite of this, I was surprised when I noticed, according to the statistics, that only 14% of the agricultural landowners, they are women. So those who do the work while carrying the land are not the owners. I understand that in old time, the community had the land. It was not the private ownership. But now when we have the private ownership, so the women need the property rights, and they need better rights as a tenure position. And so I think that this needs to change. Women must have a full and equal rights to own, control, and inherit land. And this is central to improving development outcomes, and it's central for women's rights, the agency and security. So I think that this is one of the, I hope, the clear messages from Abidjan. And I think that if women have been so strong and capable in these circumstances we have today, what kind of the work they will do in the future. And so even in the countries where the women have these poor property rights, they are not in practice, not always at all. And so we have to also to tell what is important for that. It's not only the human rights question for the women. The whole society will benefit that they have these rights. And UN and also UNCCD, we should look after and that when we are giving the orders and advice and subsidies, and so that they can reach women who do this work. And that's why let's continue this work. I think that all these stories they have already, so why not to collect them? Why not to make the stories of the daughters of Mother Earth, so that everybody could learn them from different countries, and we could learn them, respect them, and know how we could do it in better this work.
No, thank you so much for really that point. The issue of land tenure is a big conversation. I was moderating a session just 2 days ago that was really talking about land governance and land tenure, as it also connects to the land, desertification neutrality targets. What does it mean really to own land? And now we've seen this transition, this shift, and Agnes alluded to that now you buy the land. And thankfully in Kenya there was a whole constitutional change that daughters could own land. Well, this is fantastic, because my children are half Kenyan, and thank goodness now my daughter can own land. And so these shifts in policy that are needed, and you're right, we need to collect these stories from around the world, because that's where the inspiration comes from. Miles, you're from Zambia. What are you going to be working on? What is your inspiration and vision of making sure the change happens?
Musonda, you'll be happy to know that we are already doing that. We've been doing that because I looked at 3 types of power: power over, power to, and power within. Power over is where things are dictated, and that's why a woman remained without having land, although we spend a lot of time in the field, but there's no land ownership. So what we have done now, power within us, me, because I've learned that a woman is supposed to have land, own it. Then we started the campaign of women land rights in the extractive industry. And by doing that, we use 3H and 2 feet. What are the 3H? It's the head. In the head, we plan at my organization. Then we bring it to the heart, the passion, the attachment of the land to a woman and a daughter. And then we bring it to the hand. The hand will have to implement. The 2 are feet. The feet has to make me walk to where? To go and find a woman in the deep rural area who doesn't understand English, but we need to interpret. We need to fight. We've gone to the traditional leaders and tell them, give women land. When they are given land, then what we do is we look for resources to empower them. There is a project that we did, sponsored by SADC, where 5,000 people have benefited from it. And we made sure that we find irrigation to ease the work for the women. Then they planted. They are now selling, because women toil a lot. So we are already doing that. All we need is to increase. We are late. There is no time, because we have lost land. We have lost medicine. My mother clocked 93. She died in 2019. She never took Panadol. She used to tell me that in the land there is healing, because there are plants. They will tell you, if you have got a stomach, go and get that root, chew it, you are going to feel well. And this is the land that we are taking for granted. We are Africans because of land. There are Europeans because of land. There are Asians because of land. Why should we take it for granted? So, Musonda, we are already doing that, but we have to increase. We have to move fast before we lose out.
Amplify, amplify, amplify. Thank you so much. I mean, I am blown away. There's 5,000 women, head, heart, and hands. The 3 H's. This is absolutely fantastic. And then the 2, the feet. And for me, what I absolutely love from your intervention, Miles, is that, you know, one of the pictures, or several pictures I loathe seeing on Twitter, on any social media site, is having a woman heavy bag in the back, and bucket, and baby, and suffering, and as if we have to actually glorify suffering. This is problematic. This is problematic for me. And I'm glad that you're working on this irrigation initiative. The water is coming to their fields, the irrigating, growing food. This is an absolute, thank you for sharing this. Agnes, I want to come to you. Your vision, what you're working on, what changes you want to see going forward. And I'll come around with another question, a final question to everyone. Over to you.
Okay, I want to see women not just own land, but use land. Because unfortunately, because of all the policies that we have in this world about land, women are nowhere. Imagine put it even just 1 acre of land. You have to till it. Who does it? It's the woman. Who will harvest? It's the woman. Who will sell the food that comes out of it? It's the woman. Who will feed the community? It's the woman or the family. Who will go for the firewood to go and fetch or water to go and prepare the food? It's the woman. You have all that burden on the land, but you don't own it. You have to own it so that you can decide, make a decision on what to do with it. Because that's where the problem is. There's so much land at the moment as we talk, where I come from in Kajiado. Land has been subdivided. You've been told this is your 13 acres, take it. And for you to get a title deed for your 13 acres, you have to sell one so that you go and get a title, because it's not free. You're not given free. And for you to sell it is 23,000. That's a throwaway for an acre. You sell it to somebody for 23,000, and then that person goes and sells it for 1 million. So what will you have done? It is so painful. And that's now where we want to see women become emancipated, to have the freedom to own that land. You have the title deed. You can actually do whatever you want to do with it. That's what I want to see. I want to see women having the freedom to be able to use their land. Use. Own and use. Because ownership part of it is not there. That's for sure. Even at home, we own the milk. You know, the cows belong to the man. But only the milk, that's the only thing the man has never been able to take away from a pastoralist woman. You milk the cow, he will not take it away from you. You can sell it, you can do whatever you want with the milk, but at least he will not come after it. But the cow belongs to the man. And those are the kind of things we want to say, enough is enough. Let me have my cow, let me have my land, let me decide what to do with it, let me control it. So you have to own, control, and use the land. That's now my ultimate dream for the women of Africa.
Thank you, Agnes, for that. I mean, if I may just translate the figures, I think you need to understand the dollar terms here. She can sell an acre for $23,000, which is about $230. And someone else can come and buy the land for almost equivalent of $10,000. So you see the discrepancy there, the massive, massive discrepancy. So already there's a financial distortion in just the system and the injustice around it. And your point about you own the milk, but not the cow. Already there's just a confusion there in just the distortion. So even our cultural norms that have disadvantaged women over time, and how do we just, empower and move towards this shift so that men also understand. And in your community, I mean, I know several Maasai communities where a man only has 10 daughters. And so he now has to realize the 10 daughters also have to own something because he has no son. So we begin to see these shifts and these changes, ownership, having the ability to control and having the ability to make a decision and removing this burden on women. I want to go to the Andes and ask you, my sister, what is your vision? What are you working on? And where do you want to see this move from scarcity to prosperity?
Yes, well, in general, in my country, and in general, I think it's important to reconnect youth people with land, something that you were also stating, because I think this is crucial. The connection with the land exists, but new generations are losing that. And it's very sad to see in the Andes, in the Amazon, also in Peru, how new generations are even more disconnected with land. And this spiritual component dimension is every time more far away. So I think one important thing for me is to make efforts on reconnection. This is crucial. And I also would like to add, also from the experience of Peru, that is quite different of other realities in terms of land tenure. There are some important progress in formalizing or providing land rights to women. But in the case of indigenous peoples, there is a collective ownership, and even every time it's more, you can find in that communities women empowered for managing the lands. They not own because it's collective of all communities, but now it's not only men deciding on the use of this collective land. So women are starting to have more voice and decision on land management. But I would add something, a new challenge I am seeing with big concern, and in Peru it's a big concern, is that you can have the rights, you can own the land, you can have the possibility of deciding on the land. So most of people would say, oh great, in Peru you are really cool because you have all solved, right? But I think land tenure not finalized there. It's not only owning, and you can move forward empowerment, but then you have the outsiders, people who is not connected anymore with land, who see land only as an asset, not in the whole dimension of land, and they just go and try to grab the land. They invade, they extract illegally, they do a lot of things, and nobody can stop this. And people say, no, but why? Local communities are complaining. They own land. They already have what they ask for. But the reality is that they are being vulnerable, every day vulnerated their rights because of illegal logging, illegal extraction, land invasion, land grabbing, because it's still a major situation of overlapping. In my country, there is no official database of land titles, so it's very weak, this land governance. So despite you have made a lot of progress, and communities, farmers had fight for years, decades, to really have the rights of their lands, and they own the lands, but one day after they are being invaded. And these invaders can claim a lot of things, and they really could, okay, in the practice they own, the rights are there, but they are vulnerating every day the land tenure, because they are going inside without permission, extracting resources. And this influence is part of this issue of the connectivity with the land, because these persons that are not traditionally engaged, they don't know how the ecosystem works, and they are bringing also influence to these new generations, to these youth that are looking different things. So they are most trying to copy this model of unsustainable land use practices from people there. So I think it's a lot of the fight continues. Yes, and it's not only owning, of course, all of these are important, but also ensure that it's going to be a real respect to the land, a real respect, not only for the ones that are more maybe connected with it now, but for everybody really respecting land, respecting the rights. I think this is a fight that has not finalized yet.
This is incredible. So Maria Lidi, so what I sense from you is that you also want to start to raise awareness over and over and over again, because the challenge is that the communities are just vulnerable over and over and over again, even though seemingly to the outside world it seems that they own the land, but things are good, things are okay.
And they are losing faith, hope, because they feel that they are losing, so they stop trying, and it is even more a concern, because it's like, okay, why I should do anything, because nobody cares.
You feel hopeless.
Yeah.
I see that President Hallinan wants to make a comment there. Do we have a... Oh, okay, Ambassador Kwan, we give you a floor. Thank you. Please.
sorry to intervene. I am greatly moved by the fantastic stories initiated by the ladies and the woman. I am kind of the feminist. I highly appreciate what the ladies have achieved, but I still believe in much greater potentiality for the women to achieve in the time to come. I am representing one of the small NGO, Future Forest, but as in the capacity of the land ambassador of UNCCD, I would like to offer very humble proposition that maybe if you choose in consultation with Sarah, the UNCCD, one pet project initiated by women. I'm sorry. I would like to grow it as an sample example. How can we potentially grow the woman-led projects so fantastically? So I would like to propose, Sarah, can you, in consultation with this group, to recommend one project initiated by the woman, but not so big one, but not so small one, medium-sized project. If you could recommend, I would like to promote it to my capacity fully, and I would like to make it some tangible report, tangible results. How woman potential can be blossomed to such a wonderful achievement. I would like to showcase your potentiality. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that, Ambassador Kwan. For those of you who may not know him, you came a little bit later. This is Ambassador Kwan, who's also one of the land ambassadors for the UNCCD, and also has made a commitment to the youth, particularly to the young land heroes and others, and contributing $10 million for an initiative on innovation. Thank you for your commitment on that. So this is a takeaway. Just put it next to the lab. So this is a commitment now really to this group. So here we are with a new idea, and we will discuss with Sarah and brainstorm and think about an idea. President Talon.
Yeah, and I can tell to you that he confessed already yesterday that he's a certain type of the feminist. So use it, okay?
Correct.
So why I asked for is that we speak, and for the good reasons, the land property rights for the women. But there are also in these programs for this conference also the sustainable land management, because it's of course clear that not everybody can do just whatever, even he or she could have the land property. It's a question that we have to think the whole entity, and that's why we need also the smart farming and smart planning and smart land management, so that we will get also the sustainable world, and we get a sustainable fair division of the products in the future. So I again say that when you have the country's representative here in the conference, and then also the afterwards, so tell the whole story. And if you do these stories, the daughters of the earth, so tell also this one, because I think that sometimes those who have the land as their own property, they have very little power to use it in sustainable way. So that's the only thing. And land registers is one issue. if you have the land register and you know who is the owner, and then also that what he can do to these rights, but then also for the whole society, that what is the sustainable way to use the land. Okay.
No, thank you very much for that contribution. You know, how we also have to make sure around sustainable land management that we're focused. I want to come to you, I haven't forgotten about you, Hindu. If you can give us your insight in terms of your vision, where you want to see the change, what you're doing already going forward and moving from scarcity to prosperity.
Sure. Thank you. And thank you, Ambassador, for really engaging in immediate action, because that's what we want. We want to action. We don't want to have talks anymore. And I will keep repeating that until I see the action. So I have three things. Firstly, I'm working in a project on how to give women land rights, because culturally, religiously, we don't have a woman land rights. So in this project, I work with a group of the women, and it's just like a couple of months ago. For the first time, we get a land titling for a group of indigenous women living around the national park. So I did the initiative. I traveled 2 times there. I went to the community leaders, to the national leaders, all of them. I make them sign the document. The first document they signed, it was very funny, because they put, yes, we leave this land to the women, and then down you see like one of the community chief name. Maybe they think we are not going to read it. I read the document. I send it back. I send a team of my group who went back. I'm like, I don't want you to see the name of any man there. It is a group of women. And you make again the process, and everyone sign in these documents. And it's work. So this is one of the projects. I'm very proud of it. And we went to implement a water pump in this place. And then the women can get water to irrigate, do the agriculture without the rain season. And during the rain season, they can do the agriculture around the place. And in the top, they will plant an indigenous trees around the place. And they can have also a fruit trees. So they can have benefit from the food and ingoing benefit from the tree fruits, and then the natural ecosystem restoration through the indigenous trees. So you give the woman a piece of land, she turn it into many other projects that come, food and security, and income revenue, and environment protections. The second project that I also love working on it was also the same time, the last one I did couple of months ago. It is mapping the land, and that's what like Marioldi also talked about it, and you said how we can map the land. So I do a participatory mapping. The last one was around Lake Chad. I mapped over 3,500 kilometers square of land. It's like millions of hectares, millions and millions of hectares. So I mapped this land with 260 islands and villages. And all of them, the community chiefs that come over there. So for me, it's how I can use this strategy of mapping the land and empowering women. So in that discussions, when we talk about one of the traditional knowledge, you get all the community chiefs get excited and giving the name, giving whatever. I let them all talk, and then he say, you finish? They say yes. I'm like, okay, now you shut up, you listen from the woman. And then the woman start explaining the things, and all of them, just so you see them shut up, they do not say anything. And at the end, I use this strategy and telling them how much the women are knowledgeable, and this work cannot work without the woman. So that's my first process, and second one is the woman who lead all. And then I move over how the women can own the land. So those are like the recent 2 projects that I'm working on them, and women are getting these recognitions, and it's so incredible to understand that men who are the one oppressing the women, they understand themselves. They have to involve women, and women are really the actors there. But what I want for the future, I'm not thinking about 2030, who is tomorrow, or 2050, who is the day after. I will be alive, hopefully. I'm thinking about how in my indigenous culture, I learned to vision so long. So when I grow up, you have a child, they give you, you have to understand your 7 past generation. Like my dad, that is one. My granddad, my grand-granddad, my grand-grand-granddad, until 7 of them. Not only I have to know their names that I can name you, I have to know what they did in their life. And then I know which legacy that they give me. And that helps you when you have to think about your future. You have to think about the 7 next upcoming generation. You can, like, I can't take the decision that can impact only my daughters or only my granddaughters. I have to take the decision that will impact the 7 next upcoming generation. And the beautiful on it, I found it not only in my community, the indigenous peoples in North America have the same thing. So like we have no connection, but this is the relationship with the land. So what I want, it's just to living from here, we have to think about the 7 upcoming generation that we are leaving the land for them. And the land need to be productive, respected, accessible for these next 7 upcoming generations. Otherwise, we did nothing. We can think about 2050. It's no way for me 2050. It has to be from now to these 700 years coming that is restored and protected. So that's what we want. So land right, land ownership, all, it's part of it. We need to think about human being and nature. We are part of it. We are indivisible, and we have to respect it.
Thank you very much. No, this is absolutely amazing. In fact, you actually raised a very valid point. When I met somebody actually in Wisconsin about 2 years ago, he said exactly that. My community talks about 7 generations. And a recent book that I read, if you haven't read it, it's written by Roman Krznarek, and I will share with the UNCCD because I interviewed him for the UN Decade, and he's written a book entitled, Are You a Good Ancestor? So you have to ask your question, are you a good ancestor? So the cathedral thinking is the 7 years. 7 years back, 7 years ahead. And I think this is where the critical element comes in. I know that, it's been a long, long day for many people, and it's getting warmer and more humid outside, but I just want to summarize the conversation that we're having here. We've crisscrossed from across Africa, from Finland. We've come all the way from Ma, land. I cannot even remember, Miles, the name of the land. Nkaka. Nkaka. You have to remind me of your words of land. From Zambia, working with women, making sure that they have access to land, ownership, the 3 H's, the head, the heart, the hands, and the 2, which are the feet, the moving. How do we ease the burden of access to land? And we came to you, Patricia, talking about, let's just stop talking, action, 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 action. Let's get going, let's get doing things. And Agnes, you really talk about the complexity of life and being a Maasai. You don't own the cow, but you own the milk. What does that mean? The value of land, the monetization of land, and sometimes it's undervalued for the woman, and yet somebody else comes, owns it. But how do we have the rights, and also reduce the burden for women? And this ownership, what does it actually mean in reality? When can you actually own the cow and the milk together and have those assets or natural, but connection to medicines, reconnection to nature, which is also very much connected to you, Hindu. How do we reconnect to land? I was very blown away by your mapping exercise, because for those of you who may not be familiar with Lake Chad, it is one of those lake systems that has shrunk over time. There's conflict issues, there's challenges there. But because of the work that Hindu and many others are doing, revamping and reviving traditional governance systems, but also bringing women to the fore, when you visualize on a map, oh, this is where we belong, this is where we do not belong, it makes a difference. If you do not measure it, you can't really use it. and it can't count it. And thank you so much as well, Maria Lodi, really raising that hopelessness that is lurking and sort of kind of showing its face in the Amazon. How do we begin to sort of rework those initiatives and rework the conversation, but also begin to raise the awareness over and over and over again? I want to end with a story because the Amazon is very precious to me. When I visited Junin in Miraflores, I was pregnant, 6 months pregnant with my son, and then I also went to Cusco. But also what I found fascinating when we talk about restoration and degradation is that the nature is what has provided the business from the Amazon. Now, this region has an animal called the vicuña. If you've never heard of vicuña, it is one of the most expensive wools in the world. A suit of vicuña is about 50,000 euros. 50, a suit for a man. And a scarf is almost 4,000 euros. Now think about it. The shearing and the collection is usually done by women. So even when we talk about restoration, the value of these ecosystems, the value of these value chains, we're here in Cote d'Ivoire where there's cocoa. And I understand also from Sarah that there'll be a field trip tomorrow for people to see where cocoa grows. You just eat the tail end of the cocoa, the chocolate. But the work that goes in it, you have no idea. There's women working and tilling the land, some of whom may not even own this land. So we have to be aware of this connection, the intimacy, and moving from this scarcity to prosperity. And as we are here at this Land for Life initiative, which is amazing, your stories are super inspiring. And thank you, Ambassador Kwan, for your commitment and really your gesture of wanting Sarah, we'll follow up on that, an initiative, a collective initiative. And I think this is the power of these conversations. How do we walk away from here with real action? What are we going to do together? Really together. So I just want to go around again, and I'll start with Miles and then come to you, President, go around. Your last thoughts, your last words going forward before I hand over back to Lukwesa and we start with the land heroes.
Yeah.
What are your last reflections? Over.
My last reflections is let's not talk. We've talked too much. So many policies. If a police can't interpret, cannot speak to the things on the ground, you cannot do things on the ground, then that police will end up in the shelves. Things are happening on the ground. Beekeeping in Zambia, what we are doing, women never used to participate because you have to hang. But us, we are giving out modern beekeeping. You train them, you give them honey pressers, you train them in the processing, value addition. Then you tell them, please don't accept mining because the forest will give you honey. And if you go on the world market, honey and the copper, the price of honey is high. Is high. So that is a project that we are doing with the Finland Embassy, Irish Embassy and Oxfam to empower women. Women can do anything. Women can do anything. And it's no longer men in front and the women at the back, but men and women working together side by side.
Thank you. Shall we give an applause? And over to you, President Hallonen.
So thank you very much for all these stories, opinions, and demands you have given today. But I still remain hungry. I want to hear more. And I think that our very good gentlemen here also, the ambassador, but also the others, they are listening so carefully. I think that we need a collection of these stories and many more. So this is also a request for UNCCD. Why not? And I think that we could organize also money for that. So let's start to work for that.
Thank you so very much, President Hallonen. Over to you, Patricia, your last thoughts?
Mine is to the youth and the future and the next generation. We cannot separate land, mother, and the youth, because this is what we inherit, and what going forward I would like to see is a lot of mindset change, that young people will explore land not only as an asset that produces food, but as a job opportunity for not only for them but for the next generation, and that young people will now start looking for opportunities not only in the white collar jobs, but they will look they will look at the land as an employer and a life sustainer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patricia. Hindu.
Yeah, I'm an action person, so it's straight way forward. How we can have a continuous meeting of those women and having more aspiring women to share the history, as you said. We need to build a narrative of what we are doing and what we can do if we get more power, more opportunity. The second project, as you said, we need to think about a concrete project that we are doing to show the evidence. The money is out, but if we don't have a concrete showing evidence, we cannot access it. So the evidence. The last one, from now to the next COP is 2 years. We talked about that, Sarah, Musunda, myself, and my sister. So this woman caucus we had with the head of, First Ladies Women's. We wanted to have the First Ladies, women ministers sitting with the peoples like us coming from the communities, really from the communities, interacting each other, discussing in the next COP, showing them we are not different. Maybe they get privileged being like in this position of First Lady or ministers or whatever. They get this privilege maybe, but the other women are also women doing their own work. So we need to sit all together and show the world what is our thought and how we can move all together. And not sitting as in podium, we say that also, but sitting round. That's what we do in our indigenous communities. Always, we sit under the trees all together in a circle, in the same level, and discuss together. So those 3 actions, I think, if we move them forward, I'm committed to be there.
Thank you, Hindu. Marilodi.
Yes, fully agree. Thank you, Hindu. And well, I may also add that for me, this experience has been really inspiring. Thank you very much for inviting me. It really was a very pleasant surprise. And I will finalize saying that I think we have a very important role to play here as women in the position that we have in our countries with our initiatives back to our homes. So I would say that we have this great job of continue doing work for changing mindsettings, because I think the information is there, a lot of lessons learned, knowledge, evidence, but sadly a lot of men and women still does not have the information. They are not understanding the real dimension of the issues and of the opportunities that we as women have. So I think this is a work in progress, and I think we have a lot that we can do from our current positions to influence and to change these mindsets. That's what I would say. Thank you.
Muchas gracias. Over to you, Agnes.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you, Hindu. I didn't know about this meeting. I kept asking about it until we met. So I'm so happy. She grabbed us, and I'm happy she did, because this is really our passion. I just want to say, even with all due respect to all the men who are here, women are powerhouses. So let's form a movement, because we are newcomers when it comes to land issues. Land has always been preserved for the men, governments. Now, let's put our foot forward. Let's test the waters on this one. Let's form a movement going forward, okay? Good, agreed. Now, my second, my second point. I wish the AU could also have been involved in this roundtable meeting. I say this because we are in COP15 and we're in Abidjan, meaning we're in Africa. There is a second, I would say second scramble for Africa happening right now. And this is in Agenda 2063, AU Agenda 2063. And one of the things that's happening in Agenda 2063, AU Agenda 2063, is called PIDA. PIDA is the Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa. And what does PIDA include? infrastructure, in terms of infrastructure, it's the roads. You all know about the roads, maybe in your different countries that are happening. In our country, it's called LAPSET, includes Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and Sudan, and Ethiopia, and that has already taken off. Then there is, maybe in your own different countries, there is, we have SGR, SGR stands, the trains. Then you have the mega dams. You have all those things happening in your countries. Then you have ports and airports. And all that means what? It means land has been set aside. So where did the agreement come from? Where did what we call FP come from? The free, prior, and informed consent to the people who are using the land. Was there any? Can we be able as women to come in and ask that kind of a question? Where is the environmental impact assessment? EAI. EAI? Yeah, done. Where was it done? Did we ever ask ourselves that question? We need to take lead, because apparently we have left it aside and decided to take a back seat. Now we need to come to the front seat and ask ourselves all those questions in terms of Agenda 2063, in specific PIDA, because it's affecting us. It's affecting corridors of pastoralists, moving corridors. You know, for us pastoralists, for those who are pastoralists, movement is part of our own adaptation. It's our community adaptation. And for those who are farming, it's your livelihood. Just the way pastoralist livestock is your livelihood, farming is your livelihood. And what is it affecting? It's still part of the land. You will be moved. You just find out one morning that you've been told, oh, can you please pave way? Because the government has said they will do this. And we just agree and very politely say, oh, is that the truth? It's the government, so are we going to? Nothing, just go next place there. But you realize that how many hectares of land have been taken? Thousands and thousands, and you don't talk. So we need a movement. Because as she says, posterity, the future generations. And not just one generation, 7 of them. It depends on us. And we ought to act quickly, or else we don't know where our children, our great-grandchildren will ever end up. We don't know what we have left for them. So PIDA, Agenda 2063, the AU needs to sit with us. And we all plan and know what to do about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Agnes. Thank you very much. So I think we see here a collective of stories from around the world, but also the experiences of many women. And I think we end on a very important note, because obviously multilateral processes and political processes are very important. And here we are in Africa, and the African Union is also dealing with a lot of investments and challenges that also relate to tenure, but to land for life, as it were. Because we're also in Africa. I don't want to take up much time, because I need to hand over to my sister Lukwesa, because we're now going to go into a session with the land heroes and also hear from them. I just want to say, please give the other speakers a round of applause, because they've been so amazing and inspirational, these women. Thank you very much. And I just want to request, if we can do at some point, to actually just take the names of the names of land in your language, because we'll need to tweet that at some point. We take a group picture, because we know that President Halonen is going to be leaving. I hand over to Lukwesa.
Yes, just very quickly before we move on to our next session, you amazing ladies are going to come to the front of the room, please, with President Halonen, and you're not going anywhere either. We'd just like to take a family picture, if possible. Ambassador as well, you are an honorary lady. You are going to come up, please, for all the support you've given everyone today. And the ladies' session, please can you come up and join us for a family photo? Thank you. Yes, absolutely. We're going there, are we? Okay. Yeah. Just over here because it's got a better background. If you're part of the family photo, I wonder if you could please come to the right of the room. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we're just taking some pictures really quickly. I think wonderful mementos for everybody. But we're going to have our next session, if I could say, in the next 2 to 3 minutes. And we're going to hear from the land heroes. And then there'll be a presentation of the award. And that will bring today's session to a close. So 2 minutes, please, if you could find your seats, and we'll start over again. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really sorry, but if we could crack on, the land heroes have been waiting so patiently. If we could just gather. Now, because they are young, this is going to be quite a nice pacey session. They are the ones who are leading things. I'm just going to grab my phone. Right, okay. Now then, I always find that the young people are the ones who educate us in terms of what we're doing right or what we're doing wrong. So, the land heroes have been working on a project, and it's been fascinating. I've been part of some of the conversations where they've come together essentially as a collective. Now we have, I'll just read out the names of our land heroes. So there is Patricia Combo, who you've already heard from. Patricia, can you just put your hand up for us, please? Okay, yay. We then have Moses Mulindwa from Uganda. Patricia, of course, is from Kenya, but you already know that. We have Ibrahim Musa from Nigeria. And then we've also heard from David Chapoloko from Zambia. Okay, right. Now here we go. Just bear with me, folks. So because land heroes are very prominent on social media, this is where their power lies. So I decided to just switch things up a little bit. And I went to social media, and I'm going to use that as my guide for this session. So, as I go into their Twitter page, we are going to start off by looking at, just bear with me, isn't it? When you need technology, it slows down. But obviously, these land heroes have a huge following on social media, and this is where their power lies. So let us start off with ladies first. Twitter handle, Patricia Combo. She's known as Voice for Land. So if you want to follow her, type that in and you'll find her. Right, Patricia describes herself, hashtag top 35 under 35, environment category founder, and she says a UNCCD land hero, sustainable land promoter. Now I think that's changed over time, hasn't it? Because I've seen different I've seen different titles. Yeah. No, which is good, because that's what it's all about. So I wonder if Patricia can please describe to us what a sustainable land promoter is.
Hello. Yes, the reason why I call myself a sustainable land use promoter is because there's using land and there's using land sustainably, and sustainable land use management means utilizing the space that is available to maximize on production, but also using it to better the next generation, and protecting the natural resources to ensure that today and tomorrow you will still have something. So according to me, it's using land in a better way to ensure you have a lot of produce, but also using it in a way that tomorrow and the day after you will still get the same results.
Okay, Patricia, thank you very much. Now the reason I'm looking at these titles is there is a lot of confusion out there. There are so many titles. You have climate activists, you have environmentalists, you have a land practitioner, you have this, you have that, and a lot of the public are getting lost in the terminology. So hearing that definition and how you see yourself is very important for getting the story across. Musa. Musa is an environmentalist focusing on land, there's that word again, land restoration, global hunger, and the SDGs. What is an environmentalist, first off?
All right, thank you very much.
Musa, come to the front for me, please, darling. Yeah, come up here. And I think I'm going to ask you to stand up. Sorry, Patricia, I should have said that. But we're a nice group, so if you could come to the front and if you could address the group standing, please.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity as a young person to come to this interactive dialogue where there are a lot of all right. First and foremost, you are actually right. My portfolio on the social media platform is environmentalist. An environmentalist is somebody who has huge passion for the environment. An environmentalist is someone who sees something not going right in the environment. For instance, you see people cutting down trees. It's an environmentalist who go down to the grassroots to give awareness, to sensitize people, and as well bring people together towards a shared and common goal. What is this goal? Sustaining the environment, ensuring that we protect the environment and keep it for the present and the future generation. An environmentalist is somebody who inspires a lot of young people to go into actions that are sustainable for the environment. What are some of these actions? Planting of trees, creating awareness, creating policies that will help stimulate sustainable development and growth of not only the community, not only the country, but for the planet at large. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. Okay, let us move on to Moses. Moses, come and take the stage. Now, Moses describes himself, again, as an environmentalist and a climate leader, and he's also, by the way, a co-founder of CYE Believe. Say CYE, okay, CYE Believe. And he is a land hero for the UNCCD. Moses, what is a climate leader?
Good evening, everyone. A climate leader is someone who cares about environmental issues, but also goes beyond and cares about social issues. For instance, gender equality, health issues, education issues, because those issues are intertwined with the impacts that are caused by climate change. So a climate leader is someone who goes for that and seeks for policies that are sustainable. So that's a climate leader.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh,
thank you.
You're going to add something or no?
Oh, I was just going to add on being an environmentalist because I also put myself out there as an environmentalist. So I think an environmentalist is someone who seeks to protect and improve nature. I think that's what separates an environmentalist and a climate activist. Here someone seeks to protect and improve nature, the other one goes beyond that and adds on other issues. So I think it's a confusion that we usually find outside there. Thank you for clarifying on that.
It's not just outside there, it's in here as
Oh,
well.
that's
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. And we're going to invite David now. David, if you could just grab the microphone, please. And David is a UNCCD land hero. He is a climate and land activist. And he's also a CEO at Chaps Waste Solutions and proudly Zambian. Okay. Always have pride, yes, in your land. What is a climate and land activist to you, David?
Okay, so land and climate activist. Firstly, we need to understand activism in a language that we can easily, grab. So activity itself, you want to inspire action. Okay, so you want to do something that will bring about a conversation, perhaps to global leaders, to young people, every stakeholder that is involved in that kind of work to start talking about something. And probably that's what I do. In the past few years, I have done quite a number of work in the area of climate, trying to bring up ways, in which we can incite some conversations with the government and, to inspire them to take action. And also on the issue of land, I am a creative. I'm an artist. I remember last time we created a Christmas tree from the bottles in the environment and put it at the Italian embassy, and a lot of people came around it. This is beautiful. But it wasn't about the beauty, it's about the conversation that came afterwards. We were able to talk about waste management, land. So I also write books, storytelling. Those are one of the things that have inspired young people in Zambia when they read about my book. I tell my story, what inspired me to do that. It's my way of activism. And also Chaps Waste Solutions, where you come to a place where we operate from, and then you find a block, and then you ask yourself to find, how did you make this block? Well, we made it from the things that you threw to the environment, and it's very strong, really. We are not using cement, we are just using plastic and glass that people throw to the environment. And on one side, we are healing the environment, but the activism is that we want to incite conversation while we work. We want children to look at the pieces of art and appreciate them and tell them to say, if you really appreciate this art, stop throwing things into the environment and you can make this and sustain your livelihood. So basically, that's what it means to me.
Okay, stay there, David, stay there, because you're going to answer the next question. As I ask the other land heroes to please come up here so we can have you here, it'll be a lot easier to pass the microphone. So the next question, David, if you could just take this for me. In terms of conversations, all right, this is what it's all about. And I'm going to keep harking back to social media and conversations in the virtual world, the virtual sphere, because that's where your story is being told away from your immediate regions or towns, okay? So this is really, really important. And essentially, that's how you were found by the UNCCD. they noticed you, they noticed your work, and that's why you're a hero, because they were impressed by what you were doing. So in terms of conversations, you start this answer off, if you could, for us, David. What conversations get people's attention? What conversations are being had? Have you found that you get the correct engagement for the story or the point that you're trying to make?
Okay. Firstly, if you want to have a conversation with people, one thing that I believe in is you have to be one of them. And basically, that one would relate so much because I'm an African and I live in an African country. And so in Africa, there are things, you know, that we believe in and we hold so much sacred in our lives, and land is one of them, you know. It's the best conversation you can ever have because people understand land. It's where we come from. It's sacred, you know. Let's move away from this notion that Africans really need sensitization about land. I think that people outside Africa need that sensitization, not Africa, because you know where we are coming from. It's a shame right now. If my forefathers, for instance, came and found me in the streets of Lusaka renting a house in Zambia, you know, because for them the heritage was land. Like that's what they passed on to other generations, and that's what made us who we are and where we belong to. So could there be anything that incites people so much, with so much interest to be involved in? It's the issue of land itself. How can we work the land? What opportunities are there in the land? We have seen people, you know, shying away from the activities that they used to do on the land because we told them they never knew how to operate the land better, and then they conformed to our means, and then we are now going back to them to say, we were wrong. Go back to how you used to use the land. And now that's a process, because now to take back people after all the while they used to have all these benefits from the land, and now it's been degraded, and then we're telling them to say, go back to compost. You know, it takes a process, and that is why it's a two-way form. We are trying to educate people to say, you were not wrong. Actually, the way you were using land is the way things should be. And also, we want to take government to hold them accountable of the things that they permitted to happen on that land, to give people resources, to mobilize resources so that the people can now appreciate the meaningfulness of the land where they dwell. Maybe I would pose this challenge. Get me a professor from the best university around the world who will know land better than my ancestors. Because for my ancestors, land means legacy and life. And if we take it away from them, we have killed them. Thank you very much.
Patricia, I'm going to pose that same question to you. Obviously, I'll come to everyone, try and come to everyone with different questions, just so we can get as much in as possible. The reason, no, David, join, just swap seats if you could. And the reason I'm coming to Patricia on this is that, number one, she is a land hero. She's also a very strong woman in a very male-dominated society. Now, what I want to get out of you is the fact that your father, and you've admitted it to me in a conversation, is a progressive man. He's a feminist. He gave you your land. But, there is a but. Explain to people.
Okay, for the sake of our audience, I started Patri Initiative working with communities and schools in 2017 after I visited the northern part of the country, and after watching and seeing how drought was ravaging communities and the face of innocent children and women. And from there, I flashed back my childhood and how I really took land for granted and ecosystem that I had. And I started Patri when I was in my third year, and convincing my dad that I wanted to do this. I wanted to shift my career into land and restoration. The community was like, no, you must be mad because I am professionally, I'm a media analyst. And we come from communities whereby a white collar job means like you're successful. Now going back and telling my father, this is what I want to do, was really a challenge. And also I come from a community where land is limited. We do not have large chunks of land. I can tell you for sure, you cannot find a community with more than 2 acres. So it's like one, and it's not continuous. You'll find one portion here, another there, another there. So convincing my dad was really a challenge, but I had to prove him wrong. First, we used what was available. I used to post pictures of broken basins, bathtubs, and from bathtubs is where I'm connected with Lukwesa, because she was like, you're using a bathtub as a nursery. And I was like, yes, because land is limited and I cannot take a piece of land to put nursery because, the community depends on the land. And after working and proving to the community that it's doable, we can use what is available, the available land, and actually transform it, feed our communities, and, show the world that even though it's a semi-arid region, families must be fed. A 5-year-old child not understand this is a semi-arid. Every day they need food. And for us to show and feed them, it's by acting. So in 2020, during the pandemic, everyone was stressed, lockdowns, the families were huge, vegetable price went higher, and now is when I convinced my dad, and because I wanted to do vegetables. My community, we grow maize and beans. Now I wanted to show them that we can grow vegetables and have nutritious food for the children. And because everyone was at home, he gave me a piece of land. But even with him giving me the piece of land, first of all, it's a taboo from my community. A young person and a woman to own land, it's like a taboo. And I really appreciated it. But even with land ownership, I do not have the title of the land. The land belongs to my father. When I want to grow a tree, first the conversation that I have, can I do this? This is what I want to do. Yes, we are given the land to own. I'm cultivating on the land, but he makes the decisions. I come, I tell you, this is what I want to do. And you will be like, no, our ancestors were doing this. You should try this. No, you should not plant any tree. This is sustainable. We are trying to, to bring the ecosystem. We are going to we are trying to protect like the soil. We are giving the soil its nutrients and the health that it needs. But again, it's like, no, I'm the man. This is my land. I'm just giving it to you. And every time I have to consult my father, first I'm very grateful owning a land in my community. But again, every day I feel like I am working on a borrowed time. Today, if my dad decides enough, I'll quit. I feel every day I have to beg, I have to request, I have to, even carrying my restoration sometimes becomes a challenge because he owns the rights. And my work is just like complementing what he does because his ideas, his everything. And actually he makes decisions on how the land to use. He will be like, no, this one, I want to grow Napier grass, and the conversation goes. So I feel it's not about land ownership, but also giving a woman freely to exercise. And not only women, because I want a young person to start interacting with land, from growing vegetables, from farming. Initially, I used to tell my mom, you've served like little vegetables. I thought she was mean. But the first time I had a successful kales project, at first it failed. Second, it was successful. From there, as a young person, I understood better that the little food that our mothers give us, there is a lot of struggle. We only see, we are fed and, you just take your plate. But a lot of young people do not really understand, the process. So it's a challenge to us. Go start farming. You will appreciate the food. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think what I wanted to do there was, I'm going to, yes, Moses, if you could stand up, please. That's lovely. I was trying desperately it wasn't desperate because you did it beautifully, Patricia, beautifully, to illustrate that there are very complex issues in this subject. That it's very nuanced. And a lot of the work that you think that land heroes are doing, they're at the cutting edge of, this and that and that. They have a story to tell, and it's a very powerful story. Moses, I am going to ask you this question because you are very much into the bureaucracy, I've noticed, in our conversations, okay? Now, from what you've heard whilst you've been here at COP15 and what you know is happening on the ground in the work that you do in Uganda, how do you translate the language, break down the concept, and take it back to the land successfully to say, this is actually good practice, this is what we need to do? And then, Ibrahim, or maybe I'll ask you another question, Ibrahim, but off the back of that, has the UNCCD got it right, according to what you know is happening on the ground? Yeah? Yeah, just take that one.
All right. Thank you. So, is it okay if I get to know the time that I have? Because, I mean, we talked about storytelling,
Yeah.
so just wanted to bring it in a form of a story, you know? Yeah, so, back in 2016, I think I joined campus, university, and I'm going through my YouTube feeds. And I landed on a video that was talking about Africa. And the picture that was painted of Africa is a picture that I didn't like at that particular moment. But I didn't have anything to do about it. So I kind of let it slide. But it kept haunting me since then till 2017, in the middle, about June. I was like, I'm going to do something about this. I need to get those communities. I'm African. I'm living in an African country. I need to get these communities and actually get those stories, the untold stories of an African child which the world doesn't know. So I started going to communities, documenting all these stories. And in 2018, I happened to be in Eastern Uganda because I was doing a country tour. And when I got to Eastern Uganda, I think a few days had
Hold on,
passed.
sorry. Did you say you were doing a country tour?
Yeah,
You were
getting
taking
raw
this seriously.
Yeah, getting raw stories.
It's a proper campaign.
Definitely. So I wanted to get raw stories from real people, and in Uganda we are blessed with diverse cultures. We have almost 68 cultures, so I needed to get every bit from every culture. And I get to Eastern Uganda in a region called Bududa. Like a week ago, I think there was floods and landslides. And I find this young girl, she was called Nandutu because I later learned that she died, though her siblings are still there. She was 15 years of age at that moment, and she was taking care of her 3 little siblings that had lost their parents due to floods and landslides. And that was not just extraordinary, shocking, but it was imaginable. Like at that particular moment, I mean, I was at the university and I was getting help from my parents. So this is someone who is actually, I think, she was still in primary school. I think she hadn't attended, she hadn't had a good education system, quality of education, and I couldn't imagine the atrocities, the untold suffering, the extraordinary suffering that she was going through and her little siblings. So I decided to do something, to do more research about the floods and landslides, and as I did document other people's stories at that particular moment, they all had related stories. They had lost their properties, some had lost their parents, and I couldn't imagine it. So I did research and I found that it was due to climate change. So I went back, sat down with one of my friends and told him about it, and we had to do something about that. That's when we came up with an organization called CYE Believe Network. That organization aims at protecting the environment and empowering young people. So we empower young people and protect the environment, but while we looked at all those atrocities and the problems that were happening, we did realize that we could have actually solutions that can even solve not only environmental challenges, but also social challenges, even economical challenges. just like Mr. Ambassador Kwan says. So we started coming up with these projects that are environmentally conscious and also that will be benefiting the communities. We're talking about projects like fish farming, projects like coming up with clean energy cooking stoves, projects like building materials that we make from plastics. These are eco-friendly projects, but also protecting the environment. But then we had a problem. We are doing these amazing projects, but then the destruction continues. You're like, okay, we've done an amazing work. People's lives are being uplifted, but then the problem still continues, and that is the worst nightmare that you can actually have. So the problem is floods keep happening, droughts are expanding, water scarcity is immense, and you wonder whether you're actually doing any work or not. But then you realize that people that are supposed to be protecting nature are the ones that actually keep destroying it. The locals are not destroying the nature. They are not cutting down the forest at a larger extent. It's just government organizations, government officials with a lot of power and influence that are doing that. And that, to me, got me into policy formulation and lawmaking.
So from what you've heard and seen here, is it relatable to what's going on the ground that you know?
I think one of the discussions that we've had, and I was blessed to be part of the panel that was talking about food system transformation yesterday, we're talking about ways on how we can get the policies and the laws, all the solutions that we come up with in these boardrooms and board meetings and put them on the ground. And I think we have to decentralize the solutions that we actually do come up with from these boardrooms. And that's where I think I will have to thank you, NCCD, because it's not just happening here, it goes down. It realizes there are people that are actually doing real work on the ground. It comes to you and it's like, Mlindo Moses, we've followed you for almost 4 years or 3 years or 5 years, and we've noticed the amazing work that you're doing. So with your organization, we would like to actually implement our solutions through you, through the organizations that you co-found.
Are they really quickly? I'm so sorry to hurry you up because your stories are amazing, but I've got to run for my next engagement, and I don't want. I might actually hand over to Sarah, because I don't want. It's not fair. I don't want to cut you off early. Sarah has been working tirelessly with you, so when it's time for me to escape, I apologize, absolutely apologize, and Sarah will pick up because she's going to do the next section, so we can hear a fair amount of time from you. Were the solutions applicable though in terms of implementing?
That lies with organization communities and the environmentalists and the activists and people that are passionate about every activity that they are doing. They have to actually translate these solutions into the languages that locals do speak. So
and are the solutions, is that translation working? Is it a good translation?
I think the translation is working, but it's slow, so we just need to speed up the process.
That's very diplomatic. It's slow or it's gobbledygook? Come on, be honest.
Be
honest.
Slow. I think it's a little bit slow. We just have to make it a little bit fast. Yeah, make it fast through massive education, because our young people are not interested in all the things that I've talked about. I think you could see that they all relate to land.
Okay.
So young people are not into agriculture because of the education or the notions that our education system has put into their minds. So basically we need to do, I think, a drastic change, not a slow one, right? A drastic change, and make sure that their mindset is shifted and make agriculture profitable. Like she talked about, I come from a family, if you're not a lawyer or a doctor, you're not successful. So right now, someone who's not successful is addressing you. Sorry for that. But I'm also a professional. I'm a human resource officer. So I think we are going to make a great change, and more so with by the time we get to COP16 in 2 years' time. I think with UNCCD we are going to make an CBD, all the Rio Conventions. We are going to do an amazing work.
So sorry. Ibrahim, I'm going to pose the next question to you, and if you could take it away, and Sarah will be finishing off and rounding off this session for me. Again, I apologize. But what I'd like to know from you is that geographically, you are kind of at the extreme almost of the continent, and then we're sort of dotted around, aren't we, as we move south. Do you think there is a role to be played in, because you're in Nigeria, yeah? You're in Nigeria?
Yeah.
Yes, you're in Nigeria.
Yes.
Do people who you're talking to, and I'm not talking about the organizations because they will get it because you're using the same language. Do ordinary people, do people who follow you on social media, do the community
Thank you very much. You see, Nigeria is one of the countries that is located in the west of Africa. And it is very evident when you come to the northern part of Nigeria, you will find that this area is experiencing desertification, drought, and land degradation. It is also obvious that the vegetal cover in this location is very low. Every day, due to poverty, due to high demand for wood materials, these forests, these lands are experiencing severe degradation. One of the challenges that I found while carrying out my activism or advocacy on the ground is that these communities will always tell you that they are at the forefront of this impact of climate change, desertification, and drought. And part of my engagement with them is to bring them closer to levels of decision making, bring them closer to government, and other organizations who are providing interventions to help secure their lives. For instance, we have the Great Green Wall in Nigeria. They are doing a fantastic job. They are planting trees, and as well they are nourishing society by providing them skills, providing them infrastructure like water, providing them schools, providing them medical facilities. As part of my engagement, I am spurring these organizations to ensure that they don't only provide for these people, but they teach them how to provide for themselves. And how can you teach them how to provide for themselves? You give them more education, and you provide appliances for them, especially in agriculture. One of the major factors for land degradation in Nigeria or in Africa at large is deforestation. When you cut down trees, when you deplete forest area, those lands become prone to desertification, prone to drought. The water level goes down. And when the water level goes down, it becomes a challenge. And one of the ways I've been able to stimulate some of these projects is that we can't continue on daily basis to dig boreholes to nourish communities. There will be a time where we experience groundwater overdraft, continuous usage of this groundwater. That is where the work of land restoration comes in. When you restore lands, it has multiple benefits. It has multifaceted areas that it is impacting on. First and foremost, we are talking about getting united for land. In getting united for land, we need to bring everybody together to tell them that land is what binds us together. One of our panelists today said that land is integrity, land is dignity, is our dignity. When you see somebody, you can be able to tell this is where this person comes from. If you see somebody in the Sahel, how they dress is different from somebody in other areas where the grasses are green, where the vegetation are luxuriant. So you see, we have been able to do a lot, And one of the ways we have been able to catalyze the activities of land restoration and sustainable land management is to bring young people together to do art. You all know that cartoons, people are fascinated by what they see. Cartoons or art is one of the ways we bring people to know that land is something of great value to us. Because of that, we have been able to bring about young children in primary schools, in secondary schools, and we have come together to create art that pass a lot of environmental messages. Some of these art have been able to inspire many people, has been able to create a movement whereby many people have come to know more about the land and have developed their interest on land management, land restoration, and more of that.
Thank you so much, Musa. I can see that I'll ask you to just get a chair, and then I think you can sit next to David. I've seen from the responses that you've all given, you've bordered around land ownership, you've bordered around, issues of deforestation, issues of water scarcity. I mean, we're talking about drought, and all these issues are what affect humanity. All these issues are what affect biodiversity. So my next question is, are you young people, are you land heroes talking to each other? We are in the Rio Pavilion. We have the UN Convention, we have the Biodiversity Convention, we have the climate, and we have the land. Are you talking to each other? So I'll start with you, David. I'll start with you, David. You can stand. Yes.
Okay. Very interesting question. Are we young people talking to each other? Well, I believe that one thing that wins the war, it's not how many soldiers you have or how very powerful you are. Sometimes it's in the power of unity and how you sit down and strategize and come back. And I feel that young people, we are the greatest resource that you have in order to win this. Or if you don't believe it, try to sideline us and then come back to us 30 years later, because what is happening now is what happened in the past when young people were sidelined in decision making, and then now we have all this mess around us, and then now we are being called upon to come and give solutions to these problems. And so we understand the burden of the challenge that is on our shoulders, and that is why, despite me coming from Zambia, coming from Nigeria, Uganda, Kenya, and the rest of the world, there's this way that the digital world has connected us, and we are able to hold conversation that we could even a long time ago require us to meet face to face, but we can have it virtually and have this conversation ongoing and burning. And it's not just about talking, but also sharing the work that we are doing to inspire other land heroes from different parts of the world to also just, see where they are and how we can work together and also amplify our voices in our various places. So yes, we are talking to each other, and yes, we are up to the task, and we'll be able to do something great.
Okay, thank you so much. Patricia, I come to you. You're from Kenya. Are you having the conversations with the other youths around the world?
Sorry, I can say the conversation is there, but I have to be honest with everyone. The youth movement is not united. Everyone is speaking they are doing their work, but we are not united. And I'll give you a scenario of the ants. When they are united and when they are on the long chain, you will feel like interfering with one, because there are many, they will attack you. But if you see one, you will just squeeze and it dies. And the same happens to young people. Because of our disunity, a lot of our voice is not heard, and a lot of the work that we're doing is not heard. Because if I do my restoration, it does its own, but we're not like an umbrella, a unified voice. you find even policy leaders, world leaders will not listen to us because they'll say, you're only one person. I will greenwash you, I'll brainwash you, and you know the story goes. So the conversation is there. Second thing that I've been engaging with young people and I've really realized a lot of young people do not understand what is land. How is land connected to biodiversity? How is land connected to climate change? How is land our livelihood? And without the prior knowledge and the understanding of land, people just take land as just anything else, something you step on and you move. So the conversation is there, but a lot of awareness is needed to let young people just change their mindset from not only seeing a land as the soil and the green vegetation, but seeing the land as a resource for the future, as an greatest employer in the future, and also as something that gives us life. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. So we hear the issue of the need to, I'm going to come to Musa. We hear the issue of the need to bring biodiversity, climate, land into one room. The young people all coming together and speaking of the three issues collectively. Musa, I'm going to ask you what actions, how do we move this idea of having one collective voice forward?
Okay, thank you very much. First and foremost, land is that which binds us together. Land is food, land is biodiversity, land is climate mitigation, land is water conservation, land is peace, land is prosperity. Land is like the skin of the earth, while the soil, land is like the skin, while the soil is like the flesh. The soil is the skin. So you see, I think there is a lot that needs to be done around moving together, uniting for land. And this has to go a long way to ensure that we provide a future that is just, credible, and sustainable. I think there need to be more collaboration amongst the youth across the world. Youth need to come together towards a shared goal in ensuring that we protect and sustainably manage our land. And social media is a viable tool, it's a good tool. Social media has been a place where we have been able to unite virtually. And I think when we continue to unite via social media, it will provide the necessary momentum to build the necessary capacity for you to lead land restoration and sustainable land management.
Thank you so much, Musa. I will ask Moses to give his opinion of what needs to be done. What action needs to be done. And then once he gives his feedback, we will go around to ask you all to give your closing statements. We're actually lucky to be joined by David Answorth. David, sorry, I've spotted, David is actually with the CBD, and I'll ask him to actually also give some remarks at the end on how we could, bring the young voices under one roof. The CBD, the UNFCCC, the Climate Secretariat, the Biological Diversity Secretariat, and the Land Secretariat, which is the desertification. So over to you, Moses, and then we'll go around, and then I will come to David to kind of give his closing remarks on what we can do.
Thank you. There is a saying that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together. And that's one of the most important sayings that I've found to be inspiring in my life. And you asking about whether young people are talking to each other and discussing these issues and making sure that they move forward together is very imperative. But I think I will agree with Patricia. To be sincere, I think the communications are still lacking. Young people are not that connected right now to have a solid and strong movement that we actually need to see them influence policies in the boardrooms and do real work on the ground at a massive rate. So,
but what do young people need to do? What are you all for, and the other young people out there, what do they need to do?
And that's what I was going to talk to you about. We as Land Heroes, we are coming up with a movement that is going to be uniting other land heroes. We may call them community heroes, but not UCCD Land Heroes. I don't know if you made of, but we are coming up with a movement. I think it's going to be announced at the end of this conference. That's COP 15, and that movement is going to be uniting people, not only young people, but people that are actually doing real work, that are actually going to transform our communities, and we make sure that we fight this atrocity that we have, the problem that we have, climate change. And I think that will take me to the point where we have to embrace the fact that we already have these political divisions, social divisions that we already have, but we have to embrace the fact that intergenerational dialogues are very vital. I've been here for a week with Ambassador, and I've learned immensely from him. That's something that I would love to take back home in Uganda and share. I've learned a lot from you, Sarah. I've learned a lot from President Halloween. Like, intergenerational dialogues is something that young people have to embrace. We don't have to separate each other, that we are young people, so we have to do our own thing, and they are old, so they have to do their own thing.
Thank you so much, Moses. So I'm going to go around. I'll start with David, and then Musa. If you could give us, in 1 minute, your last words before we conclude.
All right. So my final words would be that as young people, we are very excited to be given these opportunities that you are flashing onto us. If we could have a place where we are having these dialogues and conversations to really talk about real underlying issues, I think that we can go very far. But I also think that we can't go very far, again, if you just give us a platform without an environment to inspire action. And action, we mean resources. Action, we mean being at the table where major decisions are being made, so that even our voices are being... what is true is that we hold the power. We know the technology. We know the language to speak in this era, and that you can't move away from. You have the experience and you have the resources. But if you have to create a bridge and to incorporate young people to be also part of this movement that the UNCCD has started, then I think we should be engaged even better than we have been engaged before. So I'm very grateful, and I hope that with our efforts and your efforts, we're going to work together and achieve something big. And probably in the next COP, our conversation will be different. We'll be announcing of the great works and tremendous works that we have done with your support and with our energy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, David. Musa?
One of my recommendations is that after we are done with this COP, I strongly recommend that each and every youth who is present in this COP should go down to its authorities, the Federal Ministry of Environment, Federal Ministry of Agriculture in its respective country, to engage with them strategically to ensure that most of the pledges that were made here are actualized on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Musa.
Okay, mine I'll summarize in 3 quotes and 3 narration. And first, I know everyone in this room has ever experienced a wound, maybe in your leg or in your hand. And the question is, if you know the pain of that wound, do you still continue hurting it, or you give it time and space and peace to heal faster? And the land is the wound. The land is degraded. Our soils are not healthy. The land is not about us. There are other ecosystems. The land is the wound. Will you still continue hurting the wound, or will you let the wound to heal for you to continue moving? And another thing, I'll give a practical example. We all use plates when we are eating. And you know, you can scramble to get a plate, because if you do not have a plate, you will not be served. And what happens after we've eaten? We don't just go breaking the plate, because we will need it the next time, and the next time we'll be having the meal. The land is the plate. Today it will feed me, and it does not mean that when I'm full, I should break the land. I wash it, I put it in the rack, because I need the plate to feed me. The same is the land. Today I will harvest, but I will not degrade my land. I will not just do all unsustainable things, because tomorrow I will want the land to feed me. And that thing that I always tell my community, that a community without environmental knowledge is like a bird without feathers. Today we will talk, but if we do not empower the communities, we all know that birds wake up in the morning, they fly so that they can feed their smaller birds, like their babies. So a community that does not understand land, that does not understand biodiversity, that does not understand that the soil is the link between humanity, biodiversity, climate change, we are doing zero work. So going forward, we need to have dialogues. We need to empower women. We need to tell communities land is the only thing that we are talking. And we say connecting to nature. I'm already nature. I stand in here is nature. The cloth, the fiber is nature. Food, feed, fiber, that's nature, and nature is land. I am the voice of the land, and forever I will speak for the land, because we all need farmers 3 times a day. We need soil, land every time for our survival. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Patricia. I think we've come to almost the close of this meeting. I'm going to ask David to come over. David is the Chief of Comms at the Convention for Biological Diversity. David, over to you. You've heard the young people, say what needs to be done. What do you think we need to do? And then you can give your concluding remarks.
Well, it's not in action in some ways important what I think we need to do. I think what's more important is to hear the voices here of what they're doing and what they want, and bring those voices up. Now, it's really wonderful to see all these land heroes, because under the convention process, we've also got a youth network. We've got the Global Youth Biodiversity Network. And what I find really interesting is listening to you talking about what you need to do, how you want to do it. It resembles a lot about what they want to do as well, because they're there about, first of all, about bringing different voices together. They talk about, one of you said, well, there's really no unity in the voice. And the Global Youth Biodiversity Network doesn't have that either. They've got little, groups that have got ideas and opinions, and they share and they exchange and they discuss and all that. So that variety is very important. So you have that as well. And then the other part too is just like you've said, right, so we need to come from this COP and go back and make sure that these pledges are being realized. And that's the other thing that the Global Youth Biodiversity Network does too, where they're saying, right, we need to tell youth what's being decided at these meetings and get them mobilized and interested and get them to engage with their governments as well. And so that's really excellent. But the other part I think is really good about hearing all of you today was the practice on the ground, and that it's not some abstract thing. You live and you do this. You are the land, as you said. And that's a phrase that we use is we are biodiversity, and that's what they do in that network as well. So they're the same conversations, and I think it's good to both travel in separate roads but together. And so the fact that you're having these conversations here and the youth is having in biodiversity is wonderful. So then what are the other abilities to talk together and to show that it's the same thing that we're working on at the same time? And so I think that's really, really wonderful. I've been doing this pavilion for a while, and I've heard a lot of other discussions, and there's progress being made in the sense that I'm hearing voices recognizing that the way that we divide this up in terms of land management and biodiversity management, climate change, that's something that we parcel out. But you live it all the same way, and you know what that really means. And so that reality where you can still use those phrases, you can say, yeah, well, what I'm experiencing is due to climate change or it's due to biodiversity loss, but you express it in another phrase that anyone else knows, and so that's really, really fabulous. So I think what we've seen here is you are the seeds in the land that's starting to grow this sort of movement. So there would need to be more conversations. I would like to say the next time we do this, at our biodiversity COP or at the climate change COP in Sharm el-Sheikh, we need to get heroes from all the conventions together, and you sit and chat and talk about it as well and bring that together, and I think that's where the conversation goes. One last thing I'll say is you mentioned intergenerational dialogues, and that's really crucial, because it's so easy to say that, okay, well, the youth can come together and have those little discussions and they'll get the inputs and then it'll be, no, it's got to be about intergeneration. We've got to say that this is the story of all of us across the decades, the people who have been here, the people here now, the people who will be here, and talk about what we're going to do. What do we inherit from the people who are here? What will we take? What new ideas will go together? So I think that other intergenerational element is wonderful. The energy that you've had today in all of these discussions has been really fabulous, really, really great, honest discussions, really bringing forward. And I've had the chance to talk and meet a number of you the last few days, including at Food Day the other day too. And it's really great to see this awareness of you who are active on the ground, and yet you're here at this big international setting, and that you can share that with people and let them know that this is the thing. So thank you very much. We have work to do, though, I can say, and so my commitment is that when we do this again, let's get us all together. Let's get you together with, we've got Sveta, who's from India, who leads part of our biodiversity network, Melina from Brazil. Let's get this together so we can have these other conversations. Thanks very much.
So thank you so much, David. We've come to the close of our session with the land heroes. I would like to also mention that these are not the only land heroes. We have land heroes in different parts of the continent, and we also have the Youth Caucus. So they are just a small part of the bigger UNCCD youth engagement, and we're really lucky to have them here at the COP. The idea is to build capacity. The idea is to allow them to network. The idea is also to allow them to experience these conferences, that they go back and, then create more outreach and create more awareness. So thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to the Land Heroes. It's been a pleasure working with you. I'm always excited having conversations with each one of you, but also collectively. So thank you everybody for joining. I wish you a good evening. So we are going to play a video of the Land for Life Award. Today evening at 6:30, is going to receive the award. We didn't do it in the time of COVID, but he's around to do to receive the acknowledgement, and that is going to happen at the plenary foyer. So you're all invited for that award. There will also be the 10th anniversary of the Changwan Initiative. So please feel free to join at 18:30 or 6:30 p.m. in the foyer just below the main plenary hall. So we'll play a video just to showcase the Land for Life Award so that you have an idea. And as you join, then you know what we're talking about.
Our planet has some incredible magic. Nature has evolved over millennia through a complex interaction of species and ecosystems. But this wondrous world stands threatened. Humans have altered nearly 70% of all ice-free land. Most forests and grasslands are farmlands, poor in the species that made them lush. Land degradation, and where it is, severe desertification affect around 3 billion people worldwide. The UNCCD Land for Life Award recognizes individuals and organizations who advocate and promote land use practices, known as sustainable land management techniques, with significant and positive impacts on people, communities, and society. Nominations come from third parties. Then a jury of prominent people with varied expertise in sustainable land management selects the award winners. Award winners receive a support package to increase their visibility and partnership opportunities. Past award winners, for example, improved the livelihoods of millions of people in India and of farmers and herdsmen in the Kabuchi Desert, China. Improved the farming skills of students in Uganda and smallholder farmers in Mexico. Restored vast forest areas in West Africa. Turned a desert in Egypt into habitable land. Brought degraded land back to productivity in drought-prone Rajasthan and Sahel. Land for Life Award winners are exceptional people. They help to heal our land, create green jobs, and combat climate change. We invite you to be a part of this journey and to celebrate the people and organizations that are making our world livable again.
Thank you. Thank you. So we wish you all a lovely evening and see you at 6:30 p.m. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. We didn't give up.